19th, 2018, meeting of the Tiverton Budget Committee to order. We'll start with a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Secretary, if you take the roll.
Gladly. Mr. Paul?
Present.
Mrs. Jocelyn?
Present.
Mr. Katz?
Present.
Myself, present. Mr. Leonard?
Present.
Mr. McNally?
Present.
Mrs. Hollenbach?
Present.
Mr. Edwards?
Present.
Mrs. Rochley?
Present.
Mr. Cody?
Present.
Absent would be Mrs. Janik.
Okay, thank you. One note quickly, you all have an updated version of the municipal budget with the date in red letters of February 6th. So that supplants the original handout, as I understand it. And Madam Council President is shaking her head yes, so that means this is now our working budget. Okay.
I just want to tell you, that is February 6th. There are some changes that we haven't voted on, but there's consensus among the council as far as the fire department budget, so I'll discuss that with you later. I have a meeting Saturday. We're voting on all those changes.
Okay, very good, thank you. With that, I will open the floor for public comment, and I will carefully read the committee's policy. Members of the public can address the Budget Committee on issues related to the Tiverton fiscal year 18-19 financial matters on the current posted agenda. Each speaker will get 3 minutes to address the committee. Members of the public are welcome to submit written comments to the Budget Committee about issues related to the fiscal year 18-19 budget. And with that, I'll ask if anyone has any comments pertaining to the fire department, the tax assessor's office, or the tax collector's office. Seeing none, we'll move along. I would like to ask somebody to make a motion to move the fire department below the tax collector, and we'll start with the assessor, then the tax collector, and then the fire department.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Very good, thank you. And so we'll start with Mr. Roberts. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, all.
Now, are you gonna fly solo, or are you gonna have the council president here to divert the
I
flag?
think I'm capable, but if Denise would like to step in at some point, so be it. So, my assessor department budget is usually very straightforward. There's not too many bells and whistles to it. If you want, I can just strictly go down the line item as far as what I requested and what that item is for. But like I mentioned, it's pretty straightforward, so if you want me to do that, I'm more than happy to. But if you just want to skip my...
Is your budget included in this document? Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that
Yes.
page 5?
Page 5.
Thank you.
Yes, page 5.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, I could, do my quick presentation, or if you just want me to skip it, since it is pretty straightforward, and just ask questions, whatever the pleasure.
Since you're here, we should at least hear a quick presentation
All right.
to justify your effort of being here, which we appreciate.
Excellent. Okay, so for this year, the first three line items, they're contractual, they're salary line items. The printing is for $2,200 is my request, which was the request last year. The printing consists of printing the tax books, tax book binding, postage, and anything miscellaneous applications and such that we might have printed by Paul's Press or someone of the like. The GIS web hosting, that's just a flat fee, an annual fee of $2,500. That goes through our Main Street map vendor. The GIS updates and data layers, those are for the subdivisions that we get throughout the year. So that consists of the tax assessor map updates, mergers and subdivisions of land, and if we request the vendor to add any miscellaneous layers to the GIS maps that are pretty small in nature, scope in nature, such as this year we added hiking trails for Fort Barton. So those type of expenses get paid out of the GIS update account. The mileage is pretty straightforward, that's for my vehicle. This year, I'm asking for 800. I asked for 800 last year. This year, we've already spent, as of today, 825 out of that account, and we still have, basically almost half a year to go. The reason being, my car needed some service and updates. There was a brake issue and there was tires, so that came out of that maintenance account, the mileage account. So mileage is used for not only the gasoline, but any type of maintenance for the vehicle. Education and seminars, what we pay out of that account are any dues to any associations that I belong to, seminars, classes, and any travel expense, which typically is not really an item that I have to worry about is the expense. Because if I do go to a seminar, I just take my own car and it is what it is. So I don't charge the town for that. The next line item is the telephone. That's for our office phone line. And also for my cell phone, I added a extra gigs to my cell phone. So I only charge the town $30 a month. And the reason that I have extra data on my phone is when I'm out in the field, I'll utilize my phone to call up data from the office, maps, and that type of thing. Professional and tech services, out of that account, we pay computer services, so if there's some miscellaneous computer maintenance that I need in my office, that'll get paid out of that. It's not to be confused with, later on, there's a line item for software maintenance. Software maintenance is strictly for the software, the annual maintenance fees. So, back to the professional tech services, computer services, the general treasurer, they charge us a yearly fee for the town to be part of the Vehicle Value Commission. There's GIS-related work, so under the GIS updates, those are typically the subdivisions and, like I said, any minor updates that we may want. If there's anything more substantial, we'll charge it through the professional services. And some of the more substantial things would be, right now we're looking at adding manhole covers through the DPW, so that's gonna be a bigger project, so we would pay those type of projects out of that line item. And also, we do pay, we have a copier in my office, and if we ever need any servicing on that, that comes out of that line item. Publications, we do have a subscription to the Secana Times, the New England Real Estate Journal, and once in a while, there's some miscellaneous assessor-related publications that I'll purchase, not necessarily a subscription, but maybe a one-off publication. Supplies and miscellaneous, that's for general office supplies, furniture items, just normal, typical office furniture and items that we would need over the course of the year. One of my girls, for example, is also a notary, and we would pay for the notary stamp and that type of thing. And then we go to the software maintenance. We have a few software packages in my office. One is known as CAMA, which is the appraisal software. There's a maintenance on that. There's a maintenance item on, it's still considered Vision, but we use the legacy name for it is Opal, and that's our tax administration system. I have a subscription to go to my PC, so if I do want to do any work from home, I can just log in here. And then I do, out of that account, pay for some small miscellaneous computer items. For instance, I'll keep, 3 or 4 keyboards, mouse in my office, just in case some other department, their computer software equipment goes down. I replenish it out of that account. That is it.
Now, you, in addition to your role as tax assessor, you also are sort of the semi-official IT person for the building. is that
Right,
correct?
so that's why I have some of those items coming out of that department,
Yeah.
my department. Is that okay?
Also, would you expand a little bit on the different software packages that like Opal, how do they interrelate?
Sure.
And if I remember correctly, they relate to the building official if there's permits issued.
All right. So, the suite of software packages I have is all under the umbrella of a company called Vision. Opal was a separate company, but Vision bought them out. So when we talk about different packages, they're all under Vision, Government Solutions. One of the packages is, like I referred to, as CAMA. It stands for Computer Aided Mass Appraisal. So that's the assessment program. That's where I maintain all the databases for all the properties in town and all the tables that drive the values. The tax administration system is where we import the appraisal information into the tax administration system. That's the first step to the billing process. We maintain personal exemptions to that software. So if you're entitled to a veteran exemption or a blind exemption, that gets applied to your account in tax administration. That tax administration system then rolls over, and Tony Lynn will talk about that part, into tax collections. And that's the billing where we start setting up the account information, the billing address, then the tax bills get generated out of her account. She has that printed through Vision. Go to my PC, that's pretty straightforward. That's just an online thing where, again, from my home or vice versa from here, I can log in and just get any type of worksheets that I may be working on at home. I can dial in here, get the information without having to come to the office.
Now, any Tiverton taxpayer can go online and look at the various lots, plots, cards. How does that system work? Is that through the town website?
No, so if you go on to the Vision website where you can look up a property record information, that is an annual fee that we also pay to Vision. However, that's built into the revaluation contract, so that doesn't come out of the software maintenance. That's kind of a separate thing, again, within that. The GIS, where you look up things, that's a separate site, and that's the GIS web hosting. Go back to the CAMA, though, when you talked about the building officials. My CAMA database currently also communicates with the building officials software, where whenever they issue a permit, I can import all that information into my system, and that's the database that I then will utilize to go out and double check on the permits to see if they would affect any type of property value.
Anybody have any questions? We'll start with Alex. and come
No,
on this way.
No questions.
No questions.
What does Opal stand for? Do you know? Is it,
It was just the name of the company that
Really?
started.
it doesn't have any, okay.
No.
And the other one, CAMA, is that CAMMA? What is it?
CAMA,
Okay.
yep.
Stands for anything?
Computer Aided Mass Appraisal.
Okay, thank you.
is it a town vehicle or reimburse you mileage on your car?
No, it's a town vehicle, right. So I gas that up at DPW, and they charge my account for the mileage, for the gas that I take from there.
And so when you said the maintenance that was needed on it, it's maintenance on a town car?
On a town vehicle,
Great.
correct.
And then the phone you were mentioning, that you charge the town pays you the $30 so that you have the data so that you can do business work on behalf
Right,
of
so
the
while I'm out in the
town while you're out
field,
there.
I can access the database here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Katz?
Yeah, with the police department, we ran into where they have income coming in through details that's counted as a negative expense. Is there anything in your department, that revenue that comes in from anywhere that isn't in the revenue budget or that counts as?
No, through my department, there's very little revenue. In fact, Denise, the treasurer, just asked for some revenue updates, and the only thing that comes out of my office is that we do have a copier, and if a resident comes on in, or actually more appraisers coming on in looking for copies of property record cards, there is a charge to them. Residents, we give their property record cards to them free of charge.
Do you know roughly how much?
I think it's $300.
About $300 a year.
Yeah.
And where does that appear?
It used to be more, because now everything's basically online. A lot of people are just accessing it
Right,
that
it's
way.
easier. And how does that appear in the budget?
Through the revenue, so it's a general fund item.
So that does.
Right, so whatever we get out of our office, we turn downstairs to the treasurer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Dawson? Mr.
Great.
Paul?
questions, thank you.
You're quite welcome.
I think we're all done. Thank you very much for your time.
While I'm here, do you want to talk about the revaluation account?
Might as well. That's a big one.
Just last year, we asked for $40,000. We had, kind of the backstory on this is, when I first got here, I thought it'd be a really good idea to start budgeting on a yearly basis for the revaluations because they are a big ticket item. At that point in time, it was every 9 years, with 2 statistical revaluations in between. The 2 statistical revaluations, the state does reimburse us 60% of the cost, but the full revaluations, where there's a full measuring list and data collectors go out to every single property, that's roughly $300,000, and that full expense is on us. So, taking a look at that 9-year cycle, I kind of determined that we would need roughly $53,000 a year to go into a restricted account for the revaluations. Over the last couple of years, and that $53,000, the town did stop budgeting for, and it was put into this restricted account. For the last few years, the General Assembly has been taking a look at modifying the revaluation schedule. And they've talked about going from our current, what we call a 369, to a 48, to a 510. So they were looking at expanding and not having quite so frequent revaluations, with the idea of saving the state some money with these reimbursements. So with that in mind, I thought that adjusting that $53,000 a year down to 40 kind of made sense at the time, because the town would also be saving some money with the less frequent revaluations. It looks like they've kind of changed direction a little bit, and they are looking at kind of modeling in Massachusetts, where Massachusetts does a 5-year full revaluation cycle, but every single year they do a statistical update. So instead of us doing statistical updates once every 3 years, we'll actually be doing it every single year. But because it's going to be that frequent, most of that's going to be able to be handled in-house, and we're not going to have to go out and do an RFP for any outside vendor. There might be some outside consulting, but it's not, the cost of it's not going to be as heavy as if it would stay with a 3-6 cycle. So with that idea, I bumped up the revaluation from 40 to 45, just in case the first couple of years we do need more assistance with outside vendors. And then once we kind of get into that routine of having these updates every single year, then more of that can shift internally.
Is it likely, do you know if any of that's pending in FY19 in terms of the changeover?
Right, so right now, Lieutenant Governor McKee is really working on this, and it's kind of his baby, and he's trying to push this along. So the idea, from my understanding, is we are currently conducting a revaluation right now. It's an update, a statistical update. 3 years from now, under the current schedule, we're mandated to do a full revaluation, and that's where we have to bond the full price of that, and again, roughly $300,000 or so. Even if this idea passes this year in the General Assembly or even next, the communities that are due to do a full revaluation within the next couple of years will still be doing that. And then that 5-year cycle with the yearly updates will take place.
Okay, thanks.
It's just a quick question. Did they give a reason for that cycle schedule? That schedule?
The current 369 one?
No,
or
no, the
one that they
1.5.
wanna- But again, it's a cost-saving measure. The state thinks that they'll save some money because they do reimburse us on the updates. So these updates, the original idea was that there was only gonna be one update and then a full revaluation. Now with these kind of mini updates every year, they kind of expect that that full expense will be on the town side. So the idea is changing that cycle is for the state to save money. Their argument is that the town's also gonna be saving money, but I don't know, jury's a little out on that.
So would we save as much on, as we would on the 5-10 cycle?
I'm sorry,
The other cycle, the 5-10 cycle that you mentioned?
would we save more money?
Yeah, or less?
Probably,
right.
yes. Yeah.
More on the
Yeah,
one?
because if we're doing a full revaluation right now, once every 9 years, that would be once every 10 years with one update.
I mean, more than the 1.5, I'm comparing the 5-10 to the 1.5. Which one would we save more on?
Right, the 510.
5-10, yeah, so that's,
Yeah.
so they can't really use saving money, or, that's okay, that's not a town issue, so.
But, you know,
We can't
again, they've been talking about this for at least 5 years.
Mhm.
and
Okay.
It's going nowhere.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll thank Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, everyone, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
And we'll ask for Ms. Lynn. And her budget is welcome, thank you for coming. Her budget is split between the bottom of page 5, where it says tax collector, and then all the numbers, I presume, indeed, are on page 6. So if you would just do a quick run through.
Sure. The first, it looks like the first 3 line items are contractual line items. The first one is my salary. I'm a part-time collector. I work usually 25 hours a week, and then during tax quarters and covering vacations, I work extra during those weeks. The second line item is the clerical staff. We have a full-time clerk in the office and a part-time clerk that we share with the assessor's office. So we split that part-time clerk salary. The third line item is the longevity for the 2 ASME clerks. The third line item is postage, which is exactly what it sounds like. All of the delinquent notices and any mailings, if any taxpayers request a summary of their account that we have to mail, that's the postage that covers that. The next line item is telephone. We have 2 phone lines that run into the office. One we answer, the other is our fax line, and we do share our fax with the assessor's office as a cost-saving measure. The next line item is called consulting services, and that is the fee that we pay to the collection agency for the accounts that we turn over to them. there was a few years that we weren't spending a lot of money, so we thought it was safe that we could cut back on that. And what I'm finding is, I've been turning over a lot of accounts to the collection agency, and they've been successful at collecting them, which has caused us to be spending a lot more money than we anticipated on our collection services. I'm averaging a minimum of $200 a month in collection fees. That means they're bringing in $1,000 a month in past due taxes. So it definitely, the income is coming in, but it is costing money to collect on that. So this year, I mean, we're in February, and I have a balance of $82 in that account, and I know it's gonna run short based on what I've been spending on an average basis, because people are paying the collection agency directly for the accounts that we're collecting on. And this year in particular, I kept track of the accounts that I've turned over for court, and when I added up all of the accounts that are in court, doesn't mean they're all gonna make it to court in 18-19, but if they do, it's almost $26,000 in past due taxes, which would result in $5,000 in collection fees that we would owe. So knowing that there's that many cases that could possibly be collected on, I did bump that number up from what it has been in the past. The council agreed that it was a necessary increase, and so that item has been adjusted to $5,000 this year, up from $4,000, where it's already running short. The next line item is supplies and miscellaneous, which covers all of the paper. We go through a ton of ink in the office because we're constantly, the delinquent notices alone, we print thousands a quarter, and it just blows through ink cartridges. So that's pretty much, that paper, envelopes, covers that line item. The next line item is software maintenance, and that is that's the software that we use, which is Vision, or also known as Opal, does the collection fees, keeps track of all of our records perfectly. I have no complaints. Every month I prove to the treasurer's office, everything balances. It's a really great program that we use. And the last item is called tax bills and postage. And this year was the first year that I pulled. For years, that was buried in supplies and buried in postage, and for transparency, and so everyone would know exactly what a tax bill costs to produce, I pulled that out. And we budgeted in the prior year $13,235. So in 18-19, I bumped it up. I thought I was giving a good estimate, and I bumped it up 3% in my budget that I initially submitted. And in January, I got a bill from the printing company that said, in order to make their ends meet, they have to increase our cost to 62 cents a bill, which brings that figure for this year up to $15,950. So that is the reason why that bill, that line item increased so much, is because that is the exact figure that they gave me that it's gonna cost to produce the tax bills this year. So I did increase that line item. And then right below that, the budget, I also put in a figure for the tax sale line item. And for years and years, we budgeted that line item at $3,000, and tax sales were running, they were running pretty successfully, and we were finding we didn't need that money, or we needed very little of it. The tax sale money covers the cost of all the properties that don't sell at tax sale. It's the advertising, the title search, everything that we do to put that property on tax sale. And a lot of the properties were being sold at tax sale, so the town wasn't having any expenses, so I thought that was great. I cut the line item to try to save money, and this year we got hit with 17 properties that didn't sell at tax sale. So we had all of the advertising and title search fees. So that line item is negative right now, which I'm hoping that I'm gonna be able to cover as the year goes on. But, so for that reason, I said, you know, the first time I cut it and think I'm gonna do great by cutting it, it was a lot more than the 2,000 we spent. You know, we're almost negative 5,000 in that account, so that's the reason why I bumped that one back up to 3,000.
How many properties did you sell? Sorry.
Well, I think maybe 19 or 20 didn't sell, but in that, 3 sometimes don't sell, that's pretty normal, but it was the 17 lots that didn't sell that really put us in the negative there.
Ms. Lynn, if you could, it might be helpful if you take a step back and talk about the fact.
I was literally taking a step back.
I noticed. And talk about the requirements that the town has to go through to put any sort of a lien or any, what I'm trying to say is, you just can't pick up the phone and say, hey, why didn't you pay your taxes? There's a process, and as I recall, it's a fairly specific process, and it's mail,
Yes.
US mail orient.
That's correct. It's all spelled out in Rhode Island general law as to how you can tax sale a property in Rhode Island. And a property by our town charter has to be 2 years delinquent. Some communities do it sooner than that. But once a property becomes 2 years delinquent, the first step would be, I try to, in the summer, before it's going to tax sale, is send out a letter on my own saying, your property is gonna be going to tax sale, you might wanna come in and pay before it does and more fees are incurred. So that's my first step. But the first step involved in the legal process is a 90-day notice. So the 90-day notice has to go out regular mail to the address that we have on file, but it also, if it is vacant land, it has to go out to vacant land. So we have a lot of that will go out to, say, 0 Crandall Road, and if it gets returned to us and people say, well, why are you wasting the town's money? By law, we have to do that. The next, so that would be the 90-day notice. After the 90-day notices and we set up all the accounts, then the title searchers come in and start title searching all the properties that are on tax sale. That is a $140 fee just to do the title search. As people come in and pay, I update the company daily to try to save that cost to the taxpayer. And we don't do the title search, but if their account remains unpaid, the title search gets done. The next letter that goes out is the 40-day notice. The 40-day notice has to go out certified, return request, and also to vacant land. So we track all of those, but this is all by Rhode Island general law, because if anyone comes back and says, you didn't notice me, we have a record of everything. So that's an additional $10 per mail, and everyone that else that gets the certified letters, anyone that has any interest in the property based on the title search. So some people may get 13, 14 certified letters, because if you have a lot of liens on your property or people have interest in it, every person, if you have a lot of names on your property, every time a letter goes out, it has to go out to every single person. So those fees all add up. So after the 40-day notice, what comes after that is the advertising in the newspaper. So that is the last, and that is when the names get published. So we do have a big push of names coming off. So that fee is the cost of the ad. The first ad is very expensive, and I divide that by the number of parcels that are listed. All of these charges do get passed on to the taxpayer, assuming the property gets sold or paid. If they don't, this is where the $3,000 comes in, because we have to pay all these fees. The last charge that gets added onto the account is the day of the auction. Well, there's recording fees, there's an auctioneer fee, there's affidavits that all have to be signed. So all of that said and done, the average property cost almost $300 to go to tax sale.
Okay.
And could be more depending on really the certified letters. Throw it over the top if you have a lot of people that need certified letters. So the day of the tax sale, everything that is sold at tax sale, we recoup all of that money, and the purchasers have a tax lien on the property. The property owner at that point still has 1 year to redeem the property from the person that purchased the tax lien. And if no one purchases the property, then the town would assume the tax lien, and we would have the same tax title on it as a purchaser would. And hope that one day either the property owner or someone may have an interest in the property, and then we can do something, which is a whole other thing, but it's called an assignment, and we try to sell our tax liens.
Let's see. I'm lost. I'll start with Mr. Paul this time, come around this way.
Just curious, that whole process, is that the same software, the Opal, does that cover that?
No. Well, all of the receivables are added into that software program, but we use a company called Rhode Island Tax Titles that helps to generate the official notices, and a lot of those fees are passed, like they're paid to us and then passed on to them.
So it's sort of like an outside vendor that just keeps
Exactly.
track of all that?
It's a law firm, so they make sure everything is legal, and like the title searches, everyone's been noticed, that's supposed to be noticed.
Okay, and is there anything in your department where you have money coming in that doesn't go into the general fund or onto the revenue budget that we review at the end, during this process?
We have two revenue line items that come out of our office. The first is, I believe it's called miscellaneous revenue, but what that is the MLCs that we generate in the office. So anytime there's a sale or a refinance, an attorney's office will request a municipal lien certificate, which we really just disclose whether taxes are current or past due. It's a legal form that they record at the clerk's office. So that's $25 a property. And we anticipated, I think we budgeted maybe 15,000 was the figure that I sent down to Denise, was a forecast for this coming up budget. And the other line item that is considered a revenue budget, a revenue line item, is the penalty and interest that we collect on past due taxes. And the way we charge interest in Tiverton, it is, ends up being a lot of money. It's on average about $300,000. That is a revenue line item, which is the interest that the taxpayers are paying on their taxes.
And so both of those will appear when, later on when we review the revenue
Exactly.
sheet. Do you have anything that doesn't appear there that's like a negative expense or anything like that?
No.
Question, oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Mike.
Thank you very much.
None for me. Fred?
Is something delinquent when the full amount is due or only a partial amount?
Something becomes delinquent when you've missed your quarterly amount.
So by any amount?
Yes, so, but we
Right, I
only
have
charge,
a $3,000 quarterly bill and I make a $1,000 payment. Does it go through the whole process for collection for the $2,000 that I haven't paid?
no, well, if you had just missed your quarterly amount, you wouldn't be sent to a collection agency or anything like that, but it would just accrue that $2,000 that is delinquent would accrue interest on a monthly basis.
Mhm.
The motor vehicle accounts, we don't even turn over to the collection agency until they're at least 2 years delinquent because of the registry blocks. We try to collect based on the fact that their registrations are blocked before we would even send them over to a collection agency and pay the 20% fee.
Is the collection agency one that a lot of other municipalities use to do this? Do they specialize in collecting taxes and stuff? Or?
It's a company that a lot of the, the towns use.
Yeah. Thank you.
You had said that some of the accounts were going up and down, or that you had thought that was going to be lower and then it's higher. Have you gone back 10 years to see what the averages are and maybe use those averages?
We did. We used, I think it was an 8-year average, and that's why I got really confident that I thought the tax sale, I'm like, we can cut this tax sale. We haven't used this money in the last 8 years, and then this year, you know what I mean?
Why did it go up this year?
Because of the properties that didn't, like, there were
This did not
17
sell,
wooded
okay.
lots that
Okay.
didn't sell.
Right. When you say that the property's sold and out of it's passed on to the taxpayer, the costs of doing all of this, why can't, I don't know this in the legal process, but why can't that come out of the price of the property that is?
The price that the tax title is sold for is the exact amount of taxes due. There is some other states have like a tax sale that they might sell their property for an amount in excess of what's due.
Mhm.
The state of Rhode Island does not do it that way. It's, the only thing that we collect is the exact amount of taxes and interest that are due. So there is no additional money.
Thank you.
But don't they, whoever buys the property, they have to pay the fees that are associated with the sale?
Oh, yes, yep, so if you buy the sale at the tax sale, you pay all of the back taxes, all of the interest, and all of the tax sale charges.
Yes.
So
Then,
when she said taxpayer, she didn't mean the general town taxpayer. It's the individual that owns it or
the purchaser.
buyer through the.
Okay,
through the
that's,
tax.
yeah, because when you said that, it was passed on to the taxpayer. That's what we usually use for, got it.
And most of the parcels that don't sell are not wonderful buildable lots. Am I safe in assuming that?
Yeah, some of them are landlocked, and when we've looked at some of the older lots, they are, there's like some very skinny strips that really aren't of any value or buildable lots unless, maybe they were adjacent to your property, that would be the only.
So they just sit on
Exactly.
on the town owns them forever.
Is there
Right
any
now, we
effort
have
to-
71 properties that have tax titles on them, just sitting. I have a lot of investors that always ask, oh, what do you have, for the town? I show them the list in just hopes that maybe they might be interested in them, because I'd love to get them back on the tax roll. And I actually have one property right now that we're trying to do an assignment on, which would mean that it's a property that's been since 2007. If the assignment goes through, it'll become a tax-generating property again. So we like to see that happen, but it doesn't happen that often. I think I've done 3 or 4 since I've been here.
You ever go knock on the doors of the people who live next to it and say, hey,
We've-
look, you could buy another 100 feet of property?
We've looked into, every year, it seems, we look into a little bit of like what's called the land of low value sale, and that would really be of interest to the people that are, that live next to the property, but it's kind of like uncharted territory, so we don't really know how to proceed with that. Nancy had done one, I don't know how many years ago it was. And we need to get her to supervise. I have reached out to the title company that we deal with, and they haven't really, I think there's one community in Rhode Island that has recently done one, but for years they haven't been done.
Okay, Mr. Edwards, any questions?
I'm all set, thanks very much.
No questions, thank you.
Okay,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night. Appreciate it. Welcome, Chief Floyd.
Good evening. I was gonna put up a presentation, but in time, I guess, not to try to drive everybody crazy. I gave you, those that don't have a pamphlet, some of it was to try to help people who really not sure about the fire department and what we have and what we do. I put it together, but you can certainly take the time to peruse through that. I can't get the wireless to come up on it. But if you would like to, just, however you'd like to proceed, Mr. Chairman, I'd be more than glad to move in that direction.
I think we should focus on the numbers. People can look at.
Fine with me. If, in this packet I have, and I will just say that I did meet with the council last week, and they were still working on some preliminary numbers, so, but these are the ones that I presented and the administrator had presented, so there has been some changes on the council side. I just don't have those as of yet. I know what we talked about, but those numbers aren't finalized for.
No, we haven't voted, we just did a lot of discussion.
So most of the items, you have what we had requested last year, what was appropriated, and then numbers that we had put into the administrator and discussed with him on those. The first section, all the salaries, a lot of those are, those are contractual items with several exceptions, which is the overtime, and longevity, basically the only one that you'll see on this sheet that is not is the chief's seminar, which is not a contractual item. Well, it is, but it isn't that. There's 2,000 assigned for my ongoing education and things in conferences that we go to. This year, as of right now, most everybody will be taking up to first-class firefighter. We had different schedules. That may change. I have had 2 firefighters that have left. Last year, we were able to bring in some lateral transfers that we were able to bring in with Mr. Wojak and the council's approval to bring them in at a higher pay to try to bring some firefighters in that have experience and had worked for other departments, and for whatever reason, we're either looking to relocate or move to a different area. Right now, I am down to, I have at least 2 to 3 more that are looking to go on to other departments. So at that, the number that's there was what I had at the time when I put the budget in, at everyone being at first-class firefighter. And right now, there's 28 uniformed firefighters. If you move down, if you want to go below that, you'll see the clerical staff. I have two positions. I have a full-time and a part-time. If you remember last year, we had a discussion about the part-time employee who we brought on to alleviate some of it. In mine, I believe in the administrator's number, he has them broken out, the two numbers separately. Mrs. Ferreira is a full-time, and she is a union employee that has a set number. The clerical is on, she's not a union employee, but she is covered under union contract as to what her salary is. Just as a note, last year when we discussed bringing in her at $16,000, that we brought her in the beginning of September, and to date, the revenue increase brought in by that position being in the fire department, as of today, was $90,000 additional in rescue revenue. So going forward, when you look, Mr. Katz, you had asked about revenue numbers and such. Right now, we're on line between $625,000 and $650,000 if we continue at this pace with the numbers that we've had.
Built into the general.
Which all goes to the general fund, yes.
Do you recall, I don't have it in front of me, what did you estimated that position would bring in?
We said 100,000. Remember, now we're only between September and February now, we're already at 90,000.
That was for the year, though.
We were looking at, we were anticipating 100,000 for the year, but it's working, alleviating, letting her, Mrs. Ferreira, spend much more time doing all the rescue billing, and we're getting it out quicker, and we're getting that, so that is making a big difference.
So we're exceeding expectations, actually.
I would like, I don't want to put the jinx on it, I'll just say we're getting there, let's put it that way. Yeah, we are exceeding, but I don't want to put the jinx on anything. So, and again, a lot of that is, there's a lot of things, I can't control the number of calls that we get and such. You'll notice in this chart, I will also give you the statistics for the runs that we've had, the breakdown of the runs. Overall, the department runs, when you look at the initial number, will show that there's a slight decrease in the numbers from previous years. However, it's actually an increase because we've dropped, Fall River made a change within their system where they put on an impact truck, what they call an impact truck, because they realized how much revenue they were giving to outside departments. So they put a truck on, we dropped 100 runs in mutual aid to Fall River, but increased our overall runs. So it's still, the activity level is up. We had a discussion with the council before on the overtime, and Ms. Demus, the council president, we had discussed this, and there's probably a number that you'll see. I had increased the number, asking more for the overtime, because if I don't keep my staff, I've got to fill it. Right now, this past month, our overtime went from where it's been probably about $2,000 to $3,000 a month. This month, because we have vacancies in, we're just about $13,000 this month. Vacancies hurt. We have to fill the spots.
Council
Go ahead.
did talk about the overtime, and we are, I think the consensus was we are gonna decrease it somewhat, but there wasn't a specific number. As of the last time we talked, we had spent 80,000, I think.
We're at, right now, 94,000 today. We have $36,000 left in
So
that
we're a
account.
little up than what we predicted because of the people who quit or retired. But we're hoping that by July, that might get better. So we are thinking that 200 is too high, but we haven't really come down to what that number would be yet.
And again, and it's dependent upon keeping the bodies here. If we keep firefighters and that number goes down, if it doesn't, then we're gonna have to be paying overtime. So, again, I'm not sure where else, the differential is the money that is paid when a firefighter works up in a classification of rank from a firefighter to a lieutenant or a captain, and when I'm out, one of the senior captains has to work as the acting chief. Those are all contractual items, and that's based upon the hours of leave that is available in each one of those rank structures to fill those spots. Paid holidays, again, is a contractual item based upon the number of men and the hours that they have. As we have some people going up in rank that they have more leave available to them. That is the money based on their hourly rate of pay to cover those holidays or to pay them the extra for the holidays. The breakdown of the holidays is that they will get, there are 13 paid holidays, and one group of those is actually Christmas Eve night, and then there is another one, but then there's also additional ones where they get like a quarter of a week's pay on it, so it's all contractual items, the way it's figured out in there. EMS incentive is for the level of certification that the firefighters have for working on the rescue. Right now, we have more paramedics than we have cardiacs. We only have one basic right now. The paramedics receive a stipend per week for carrying that that certification, and this is based upon the number of paramedics that we anticipate having, because right now I have 3 people that are in paramedic school that will be finishing up pretty shortly. The fire marshal.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Expand on paramedics and cardiac.
Okay, sure. Paramedic is the highest level of classification as a pre-hospital care provider. It's probably about 1,500 to 1,800 hours of training. They are at present administering probably 50 different drugs in the field. They do many different invasive procedures. They do pleural decompression, where they put a dot in someone's chest to expand or to decrease the pressure in someone's lungs so that their lung can re-expand and they can breathe. They have so much more advanced training. Cardiac, or what is now known as in the state of Rhode Island, advanced is about 300 to 350 hours of training. They have a lot of the drugs, the same drugs, but not at the level of care that can be provided by a paramedic. So for the town and for the community, the best belief is to have paramedics in place because they can provide much more care, a much higher level of care. Cardiacs still do it, and I don't mean to diminish that, but not everyone is suited to be a paramedic, so some are advanced caregivers, but they are also paid for that level of certification per contract.
How many paramedics do we have? Sorry.
I was just going to try to get the, yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly what the number was. I think it's, I want to say 17. You think 12 is it, Joe? Let me pull it up.
I wanted to say we discussed 15.
I thought you said 15 in the
Well,
notes.
in negotiations, I remember that coming up that there was 15. It's one basic.
One basic. I have one basic, 13 cardiacs, and 15 paramedics. Paramedics receive $57.50 a week for their certification. Cardiacs receive $52.50, and I only have one basic right now who still receives a stipend, but he's grandfathered in because of contract.
Just to emphasize, paramedics are very important because of our south end and how far we are away from hospitals in the south end, and they can do a lot of the stuff that we would do in the emergency room and save the patient before they even come to it. So it's very, very important to have paramedics, especially because of our rural sections.
Absolutely. Last year, we had the guys in the department, the crews, had 5 cardiac arrests in a month and a half, and all 5 of them were saves. That's pretty much unheard of.
Wow.
That's a remarkable number. The way I look at it is, each one of those people is someone's loved one, somebody's family member, but they were also a taxpayer. So we've kept those no, I mean, it sounds corny, but
We get that money coming
but,
in.
no, it's not the money coming in, but you kept them here, you kept them as being part of the community, and I think that's extremely important, the care and the level of care that the citizens receive from the guys that run the trucks. I think that's huge.
It's huge to know that your life can be saved. We've got people who are skilled and able.
And what we're seeing is, and Denise can tell you, is fire department EMS is the best, the cross-trained firefighters is the best way to go. Because financially, you've got firefighting, but you also have emergency caregivers who give a high level of care. But what they do is remarkable, it's unbelievable, and I'm very proud of the guys that work for us because of what they do. They care greatly about everything they do. But the numbers are going up, we're more important. But as EMS now has become the front line of healthcare for the community, we are seeing a sicker batch of patients because the elderly residents who may not have their health care, may not have, or maybe on Medicare or other things, are delaying calling to go to their own
Go
doctor. And when they call, they're a very sick patient. So the patients we're seeing are much more sicker. And by the time we get them, they've been that way for a while. So there's a lot, and these guys can do an awful lot in the street. So I think it's the best way for us to go. It really is.
I got a question. I listened to Denise, I listened to the chief, listened to Joe and all the rest of them. We've been asking for a defibrillator for a couple of years. That doesn't seem to be too important.
It's on here, isn't it?
I don't think it's in, I don't think he put it in.
Oh, you put it, yeah.
I put it
you
in,
put
it didn't make it through the budget. The defibrillator
Well, we
monitor.
do have defibrillators in every truck.
We
Like,
do,
that's-
but the
that's-
problem with the
Yeah, but
ones
they're
we
old.
have are,
But we do have them, I don't want anybody to think we don't.
they're over 10 years old now, and they're coming up on the end where the manufacturer's not warranting them, or not even allowing us to service them anymore. And we have one that is starting to fail right now.
Why can't we add one in?
They're about $35,000. So I'm just,
I mean, this is for the
Wait, are you-
taxpayers' benefit.
Are you saying that you bought them all around the same time?
we did buy 2 of them at exactly the same time.
But how many total do you have?
I have 3.
Okay.
One of, the engine that's at Crandall Road is also an advanced life support engine. It does everything that the rescue does except for transport. That engine has gone to calls and made saves, but that also has to have, to keep it as an ALS engine, it does have a defibrillator on it.
I mean, why
Monitored
are they actually telling you they will not service them
That's
anymore?
correct. They can't get the repair parts for it. It's over 10 years old now.
Okay, thanks.
It's old. It's old.
Okay, back to the numbers.
Sure, where would you like to go next? So anyways, go, no, ahead. You go.
I just want to say that the firefighters' contract ends as of July. So a lot of this contractual stuff we were negotiating, we have met an impasse, and we are going into arbitration. So we, and I believe our arbitration date, I want to say, yeah, September or something or other.
There are no pay raises in this, so, other than mine that the administrator put in for, but there are no salary increases in
There's no
any of
salary
the,
increases at all.
in
Yeah,
here at
just-
all.
But it includes the 2% last day.
On the
right?
last day of the
The
contract.
last day of the contract, there's a 2%.
2%
That's why the
bump,
numbers
yes.
are gonna be different.
Thank you, Nancy, yes.
Yes,
Because it includes that.
but it does not,
So the last contract, that's what was negotiated. They got 2% at the last day of the contract.
on June
And-
30th, there's a 2% increase by contract.
And so
That is
that's
reflective in here.
So
However-
starting July 1st, at least for the first year, there's 2%.
It's 2% from last year, that we gave them last year for this year, exactly.
What, in other words, where we're going in this is, going forward, we don't know where the arbitration is going to bring us. That's a crapshoot. We don't know what that's gonna bring, but trying to anticipate anything, there is nothing in my budget here, or I believe in the council's budget, that reflects any potential pay raises
Or
within.
potential cost of a new
Right,
contract.
cost of a new contract in this budget right here. Now, understand that all the line items, salaries, and everything else come down into paid holidays, differential, longevity, educational allowance, EMS and stuff. All these things all tie into what the base salary is. And there is nothing here other than that very last day, the 2% on the last day of the contract, as required by the contract.
Did the, in the first year of the contract, did it go up the last day, or did it go up the first?
Went up on the first.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a raise built into the first year, was there?
I think it was 1.5.
Okay, that was 3 years ago. I
Hey,
think.
it was a 3-year contract.
Yeah,
So in the,
so it was a give and take kind of thing, because we went into the 3 platoons instead of the 4, and there was a lot of give and take there, and we decided to give them the 2% at the end of the contract to increase their salary.
so it comes to the last day, was there an increase on the first day of the third year? So in other words, is it
I
something?
believe there was.
I believe there was, definitely.
July 1 last year, there was an increase on the first day, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes, so they got, yes, I know what you're saying,
they got 2, so I mean, and part of it, that helps smooth it, is it?
absolutely.
Right. It's a single day, but still it bumps the number up for the forthcoming year.
And there was a reason for that during the contract negotiation.
So, and the next batch of,
One more question on the salaries. So
I'm
you're,
sorry?
so, one more question on the salaries. So the management salary, or salary was 83.5 last year, and they want it to be 87.7 this year?
that's what the administrator had
That's what
put
the
forward.
administrator put in.
Okay, and you haven't voted on that yet, you said? Haven't decided?
Well, no.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait, it was
Is it
85. It was 85.
85,982.
actual, okay, 85,982, thank you. I was looking at the year before. Thank you.
So it's not that.
That 85,982 is what I had put forward, the administrator put forward the
Okay, I got it.
87,702.
Yeah, I got it.
If you want to
Thank you.
increase that, it's okay with me, I won't argue with you on it.
Did he give a reason? Or I just
He
need to
liked-
understand. I don't understand. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, thanks.
Mike,
Well, because his evaluation's coming up when we
Yeah.
normally.
coming up in May.
Okay, thank you.
Moving forward is the operational, these are a little bit more speculative. I shouldn't say speculative, but there's a little bit more change in here as far as that goes. The recruit process and promotional testing, by contract, every 2 years, I have to give a promotional test for the ranks of lieutenant, captain, and then on the off year, there's also one for fire marshal. This also comes where a recruit process, we're currently in the process now of hiring, to hire positions, so the money's used to test and to vet out those candidates, comes out of this line item. We're using an online service to do it, but the application fee is borne by the applicants coming in, but I still have to provide a written test for the on-duty staff or the people who are currently working here for promotion. Equipment service contract is the contracts that take care of everything that we have, all of our electronic equipment. What else comes out of there? Oh, there's a ton of stuff that comes out of there. There's a slight increase because there is one more. We did add a software this year, which was, it's called the Lad Tech, which is a scheduling software to bring us in with, so we can track the Fair Labor Standards a little bit better and how we're meeting with the Fair Labor Standards. That was kind of a big thing that came out through the administrator's office and everything, so we bought into that to help us keep a better track of how we're meeting the Fair Labor Standards Act. Radio maintenance is what I use to purchase the radios, portable radios, or try to replace them on a regular basis. These radios now, this one here is about $4,000. I do have, in capital items, I had put forward a couple of things. Our entire radio system is getting old, and I had put in $40,000 to replace the comparator, which is the main part of the radio system, but that's a capital budget item, and I can talk a little bit more later on that. But this is used to buy the batteries to do the repairs to mobile radios, portable radios throughout the year. Minor equipment, this buys the small equipment. In past years, we had looked to trying to do a hose replacement program. I had increased it this year, seeking more money to put in the hose replacement because it kind of got cut last year. The council, I think you're going to see a little bit difference in where they did. They were looking to try to move that into a capital project for hose replacement. So that number may be different with them. Hazardous equipment is the equipment we use for our monitoring devices for carbon monoxide, cyanide gas, or ammonia leaks, all these other things, plus the absorbent materials that we use when we go to hazardous materials scenes to clean up the site. Absorbent pads to pick up oil spills and different things like that, that's where we buy that out of. Heat is one, we've had a difference when we look at the heat. I know what my number is, what we have used in the past for the numbers, and this one always becomes a little bit subjective per se as to what we're doing it. That's diesel. In total, we had looked at all the different stations. We're using about, we have replaced all the furnaces in the stations. Last year, we replaced the south end station. So I don't have a full year's number looking at what we were doing for the number coming out from the south end station because it's a newer heating unit. But that was based upon the number that we were using, about 5,400 gallons, 5,500 gallons of heating fuel. Gasoline and such as gasoline, diesel, and maintenance and lubricants for the trucks. We use about 15,000 gallons of diesel and about 4,500 gallons of gasoline, which also includes gas for the boat. We calculated that, a gasoline at $2.19 a gallon, which you've already seen that that's gone up again. We pay rack price, whatever comes when the DPW takes a delivery. I believe it's 15 cents over rack, whatever they're paying at the time. Diesel was $2.83 a gallon, and right now, heating oil, we were paying $2.52 a gallon on. Also, which comes out of the fuel oil and tires. And I'm gonna change, I'm gonna apologize a little bit, because I know what I'm giving you now is a little bit out of order from the way this sheet is. There was a change, and I didn't catch up my notes with that, so I'm taking you out of order, and if I'm confusing you, I apologize for that. Fuel oil and tires, all our oil changes, our filters for the oil changes, and the tires for the apparatus all comes out of there too. That's the 7611 account. And again, those are the numbers that we're using for it. I put in an additional 15,000 for tires and the oil changes, and the filters and such. So the air filters, the oil filters, all of that, all comes out of there. I'll try to stay on line with the way I believe you have the budget laid out from the administrator, so I'm not messing you up on that. Sewer fees, I have, my North End station is on sewer now. We were finally to get that off of septic, but we also take the septic systems, the other two stations, when we maintain and pump out those systems to clean those out. That's where that $1,000 comes from, to take care of, pay the sewer fee, but also to pump out the septic tanks at those stations.
Are either one of those in a watershed?
I'm sorry?
Are either one of those in the watershed area?
I believe the South End station is inside the watershed. And I believe Crandall Road would be too. Yeah, Crandall Road would be in the overlay district, yeah.
So how soon are we gonna have to replace them?
Not yet, okay?
I'm serious, that's gonna cost a lot.
I'm very serious too, yeah. We were very fortunate, the Crandall Road Fire Station a few years ago, we had a well failure at that station. And one of the things that was discovered was the well is so close to the septic system, we couldn't redo the well.
Right.
So we were able to we extended the water line down from Bliss Four Corners, and now that station is on municipal water. But the south end is still on well water.
So you-
And we have had a failure at that system down there, which we were able to get, Public Works came in last year and did a lot of work to get that back online,
So you have them pumped every year?
to making sure they're maintained.
I thought
Absolutely.
Don't most residences do it every, like, 10 years?
No, absolutely not.
5 years?
Oh, no.
What's the average?
2.
2?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
The more you, yes, there's a whole system that works with the ecosystem where it is, but you're better to get the solids and the matters out of there before they get into the field. How it goes into a holding tank goes out to what's called a D-box, out to the field, and then the water leaches out into the soil. If you let that matter build up inside the tank and it gets into the leach field, then you've destroyed the leach field and you have to pull the whole entire system out. So
Oh,
I would
glad-
rather stay ahead of it and not get into that problem.
I'm glad you know about that also.
So neither one of these stations are on the list that will require you to have to replace them because of a.
Not that I have been notified of.
No.
No news is good news.
No, I know that for a fact, no.
Okay, that's
That's
all
why
I'm
I'm
asking.
dealing with that now.
Let me back up one sheet here. The electric, I will tell you right straight out, where we have been with the electricity, I still don't have a good handle on this, simply because we have a direct energy cost. Last year, we went in and there was upgrades done to the electricity for the new lights and everything else in there, but we still have to pay back the lights. So we're not seeing a reduction in the bills because we still have to pay back the, what do you want to call it, loan for the replacement of these light systems. So that still gets paid back to National Grid until they're all paid off. The usage, because of the energy efficiency, lights is down, but our fees are still up. Direct energy, in all the years I've been doing this, I still can't get a grasp of where they are. So I know what I'm using for total kilowatt hours. is $111,448, and the direct energy cost is off of that. We're using 9.5 cents per kilowatt hour for usage, and then 0.055 for the direct energy cost.
Chief, any talk about maybe doing solar for the fire stations? Is that not feasible over time?
Again, that would have to come back into a capital project, I would believe, unless we
Wonder
have
if there's
some.
anything from the state or anything, any type of reimbursement or
for us.
nothing?
They did a lot for the homeowners, but not for the municipal side of it. We had looked at some of the things we had, but no.
A few years ago, the town did a
Survey.
of all buildings that would be suitable. And for whatever reason, the fire stations didn't meet. Yeah.
And at first, for the energy efficient lights, it was not economically feasible until there was somewhat of a change, and then they redid the numbers, and the payback was about a 5-year payback, so it became a little bit more viable. First, I think they were talking 8-year payback for us on it, but then there were some more rebates or changes from National Grid, and it brought us back in line to be able to do it. And, you know, they make a difference, but still, I still have to pay back the cost for it. So you see my number is much higher. Let me pull up.
I was just gonna say that some of electric and heat, he comes in higher than we do, but we base ours on the actual.
Right.
Is actually being spent right now, and what we have over from last year. So that's why our numbers appear a little lower, is because that's actual.
And I have to apologize because I don't have it to put my hand on it. I had the actual percentages. I'll find it for you. Had the actual percentages of where we were as of today. On electric. I'm anticipating right now off of electric going forward, if it continues at the rate it is, $2,653 shortfall at the end of this year.
But keep in mind, we use less electricity as the summer comes, as the lighter months. So what we did was actually look at what he used last year.
So right now, as of today, we had spent 73% of that budget already.
But that kind of makes sense.
I mean, I'm just saying,
It's
I'm just-
lighter later, so you don't need as many lights on.
It does.
You don't need
We
as-
looked
the furnace and everything
at
going.
how it flowed last year.
Right.
And it went down as the months, April, May, June.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
again,
those are the most efficient months, is the spring.
right, but I'm, again, trying to project. I'm hoping that we work our way through it, but I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned where we are. I'm trying to
Chief,
watch it.
why are you using a different method than what she's talking about, though? Which is like an
Because
average of year to
I
year?
will, the numbers that I believe that the council has are from the treasurer, but our numbers are done to the day the bill comes in. So we may have just gotten bills that we've run it up, but I'm looking at where I am. And again, I've always said this, I'm trying to give my best estimate on this, and this is always a tough one to get. I know that right now I've expended 73% of that budget. I don't know.
What are you
Jill.
up to right now?
My number I have is, I have a balance left in there right now, $2,653 in that account. That's what, I have my balances
This is
here.
as of December, so.
Right, and we're into
But
February.
we
so-
actually looked at what it cost last year, the year before, and this is
Average,
how
yeah.
much
There was an increase in energy charges this year as well, correct?
it was, and we're
Yeah.
watching
So
it.
that'll factor a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Water is what we pay. We have 2 fire stations that are on municipal water, but I also have a station that, because of the well water, that we have to provide bottled water in that station for them. And it's the water that we have on scene that we use for fires when the firefighters are rehabbing after the fire, so we buy cases of water also. Firefighter training is that I use to keep the certifications up to allow the firefighters to go to various schools and receive certain certifications. Operational technology is what we use for the, we have Wi-Fi cards, everything that we're doing now, EMS reports, fire reports, a lot of our stuff is all done through web clouds and So we have to have the technology to be able to tie in with MiFi units and other wireless things, and then the cell phones, other things that we use. So a lot of that comes out of the operational technologies to maintain those fees to do that. Telephone, this has been one that became, in the past, is always something. A lot of our radio system is tied in with phone lines. The phone lines, we're probably paying about $1,400 a month on phone lines for the radio system. They're leased lines, they're called RTNA lines. They're a direct pair of lines. We have tried to get Verizon to move off of it to get us over into a fiber optic line, something a little better. They have no plans of changing anything. So this includes our regular station phones, the other lines that we have, but also for the radio system. The radio system, all the stations are tied together through these phone lines. It's a horrible way to go. It's a horrible system, but it is what it is. So, the EMS director is what we have a contract with St. Anne's Hospital, which they have to, by state law, we have to have a medical oversight, so we have a physician that oversees all the paramedics and the rescue service. He has to sign off when our paramedics are trained and they go for their licensing. He's the person responsible. Plus, he does quality assurance on all our calls. He reviews all our calls. He goes through it to see if there's any problems. If there's a concern or something that comes up, we go to the medical director for an opinion as to whether the call was handled right, or is there a policy that we need to change. And we pay him twice a year, $4,000 each time. So when you look at that account, if Denise was to look at it right now, there'd be $4,000 left. We haven't got the second half of the year bill for that one. But that fee is $8,000 a year for that.
And is that one person or is
One
it,
person.
it's the same person too?
Yes, it is. He has a very close familiarity because when he signs off for a paramedic to maintain his license, he has to know that paramedic and know their skill levels. When we have some calls that I don't want to call them questionable, but that we want to make sure that what we did was correct, we present that whole case to the medical examiner. Medical director, and he will come back and we will have a session. He will come in and put on a class on it, or counsel that individual, that care provider, to make sure the care was given appropriately. I think it's a good protection for us to prevent from any liability that may come about for it. Medical physicals, this has always been a fight every year. I think it's a huge benefit for the town, but every year, money gets taken from it or it gets put, so you know what? I'm cutting it out. And, you want to save money, we'll save money. I think it's kind of a risk. Firefighters are required by NFPA and OSHA, because they're in breathing apparatus. They're supposed to have a medical physical to clear them for respirator use. But every year it becomes a battle to get it done, so it's a risk, but I'm
But they
taking
do
it up.
get physicals through their medical insurance
Gee.
also.
They do, but when something comes back, and if someone is in a respirator, they have to be cleared to work in a respirator, so.
How
Chief,
are
on that-
those,
go ahead.
how are those physicals different?
They are an OSHA stated or an NFPA stated respiratory protection, 1910, CFR 1910, 31, which has to do with a fit testing and everything else that goes with it. We send them to, there is one company in Warwick, Concentra, which does the testing. They go through a complete medical, physical, respiratory analysis and then do the fit testing, so. It's about $550, $600 per member to do that.
How are you avoiding the OSHA requirement to do this?
I'm not.
I worked for an employer where I had to have this done every year, and by God, if you didn't get it done, you didn't work.
You're right,
So how are you avoiding it?
because we're not covered by OSHA, we're an EPA state, and there is not an oversight on the municipality for it.
No,
It's a
it's a
risk. Mr. Edwards, I'm telling you, it's a risk.
So
However,
how,
everybody needs to try to tighten something up as best we can. It's a risk.
so I understand,
Have we ever had?
one
those
part of me
physicals?
says we should be able to
Yes, we
do
have.
this under the existing healthcare plan, except that they're not gonna wanna do job-related physicals unless you pay them more money. So would it be more cost-effective to do it that way and get it done than to just throw it to the wind?
Anybody who comes on the job the Rhode Island Interlocal Trust pays for the initial physical.
The
These are
initial.
the annual physicals that are done every year after that. last year, there was a change in turnover of different staff that we didn't get them all done. By the time we were able to get it set up, there was a freeze put on that no money could be spent. I was told not to spend that, and that money had to be used for other things. So it's always been a battle to try to get it done. I'm just done fighting for it. I'm done. Honestly, you want my honest opinion? Then the union can come in and fight and say, we want the medical physicals the way we have to. And it would be a requirement that way. But it just seems to be a fight to get it done all the time, so. Am I throwing caution to the wind? Yeah, I am. Absolutely, no question about it. I think it's a great idea to do it because we find pre-existing conditions, or we find things that for the members that we can find ahead of time, that if someone comes in and wants to claim an IOD, we can always turn around and say, well, it wasn't present in this physical, or this was a pre-existing condition. We don't have that.
But Denise said they had it when they were hired. They have an initial
They have
physical.
an initial one, but they're required
With
every
pre-existing.
year because of the respiratory protection standard. They're supposed to have them every year, absolutely.
Isn't,
It is part of the NFPA requirement.
so we're protecting our own liability,
I believe so.
by making sure they get, by making sure they get this, or not,
Correct.
not protecting.
But I'm trying to be as honest with you. It's always been a fight to get it done. I know it's tight for what it is. Everybody is asking for a lot of things, so I'm trying to give something. I'm trying to do something here. Yeah, is it a risk? Yeah, we're out on a limb.
Is this something that other municipalities do not do?
I think pretty much most do it. I'm not putting you on the spot, Dave, but, you know, it should be done. But
And I know that you have it in your request, and
Yes.
it's, the town administrator request is not in there, so how does that come down in the end between you requesting it and the administrator doesn't request it? How do we?
When we sat and we discussed, he says, you gotta cut something. I said, if I gotta cut something, then I'm done fighting for this all the way. I don't go back to the union having to fight for it.
In all honesty, though, that, when we were looking in past history, that money always rolled over. That wasn't done, it was there. So this has been a discussion for the last few years.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't being spent, and so it would roll back over into the general fund. And then, yes, we did take some of it out because it wasn't being spent. This is the first time I've heard this kind of an argument, to tell you the truth.
But when you go to vote on this on Saturday, this won't get put back in as of
I don't
now?
know that. I can't-
So this could change, is what you're saying? It could change?
It could.
Okay, even if it's a 1%, it could change. Chance. It could change. It could change.
We didn't hear this big argument last
No,
week.
and Denise was right. I didn't give him this argument before because it was never really brought this with the questions you're asking. If you're asking me where it's at, that's my feeling on it. But as far as it goes, I had to give something. It was asked by the administrator, you need to make some cuts here. And so again, she's right, it hasn't.
Like I said, this line
Yeah.
item has always been on the line we've watched, and in past history, it just hasn't been spent. So even though it was there and it's so important, it wasn't done. So
Well,
that-
it was done, but a lot of them, because of the hires we had, we were able to do them in that. But when we got around to doing the other ones, then there were freezes put in place that you can't
Well,
be spending.
last year, but I don't know.
Prior.
I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to look at that.
What was the last year that they were actually completed for people with longevity?
Well, we've had a lot of new hires.
We've had a lot of new hires, which changed a lot of that. So I
How-
to
how
have the
many-
whole department done,
how many-
probably been 3 years since the whole department was done.
How many do you currently have that are in need, that are not new employees?
28.
28.
So you were saying you're going to suggest to the union to negotiate to require this as part of their contract? So in negotiations, you could say, okay, we'll put that in, but we'll do this. So this could be a negotiation point with the union, that.
It could
Leave it
be.
out as-
It could be.
It
Yeah.
could be, it hasn't come up in negotiation.
Medical supplies, because we are a border community and most of our transports are into Fall River, we have to pay for our medications and supplies that we get. We don't get a direct coverage for one-on-one replacement from the hospitals when we transport So medications and such, we have to buy from the hospitals. This item has been increased, and we're asking for 35,000. I think we're gonna be tight on the 35,000.
What was that for, Chief?
Medical supplies.
It's gonna be tight, very tight.
Yeah. So,
Chief, this is one I have heartburn with. We paying hospital prices for this stuff?
you are paying, Captain Placica will probably tell you better, but I believe what we're paying is, they give us a very slight markup on it for their price.
So we're paying hospital prices.
Yeah.
All right, so why can we not buy the stuff on our own and stockpile it at a fire station?
Because
And
when you
replace it
do
when you
that,
get back?
because you need to have the same type of stuff that's given from the hospitals. It's also relative to the interconnectivity of all the equipment. You don't know the clarity of the stuff you're buying. And then what we do, we have a working relationship with Newport Hospital. When our stock starts to get old and expire, because we do keep stocks on the truck, we can take that down to the hospital. As long as it's brought back 2 months before expiration, they will exchange it out. But in the middle of the night, if you go through 10 epinephrines or atropines or whatever else medications they use, you can't just leave them sitting on a shelf without being controlled. There's also an inventory control aspect of this that needs to be taken into account.
And why can't there be third-party billing?
We are not allowed by Blue Cross, Medicare, and any of the healthcare providers, we cannot bill for this item. We bill for the service provided. In other words, when we bundle all of our EMS services, it comes under ALS 1, ALS 2, and there's a set fee for it. We cannot bill for the individual drugs themselves. That's against the law.
So if you use $1,000 worth of drugs,
We're bringing you $650,000, and you want to get more from it out of that?
But it's incorporated.
no, you understand what I think you know
I
what I'm
understand what you're
asking.
saying, but we can't legally.
Let
we
me
can't do
put
that.
it another way then, is the historical usage figured into these things for any given run? So like ALS 1
To some degree, yeah.
ALS
Yes.
1 is what?
Yeah, ALS 1 would be a defibrillation, endotracheal tube, CPR, oxygen, round of medications.
All right,
There's
so
probably
then the
2 or 3.
charge for that
Yeah,
service
yeah,
assumes you use these other items, whether you did or not,
right.
and you get paid for it.
If you want to look at it that way, but that money goes directly into the general fund.
No, but we get it recouped.
Yes.
All right, so it's not a loss.
No, I wouldn't say it's not a freebie given away.
Okay. I guess I was just confused about the part we're not allowed to bill for it. You're just not allowed to bill for each
Each
individual
individual
little thing.
drug. The healthcare providers will not allow us to put it that way. We have to, even your healthcare provider, he bundles for a service.
And it's the same way with hospitals.
Right.
No, I understand now, I just,
Yeah, and there's a lot of expendable supplies that you can't bill for. The IV tubing, the IV supplies, the catheters, all those things, you can't mock in on those either. Those we can get on one-for-one, but when we go for medications and such are direct from the hospital.
So let's go back to hospital prices. When you say hospital prices, what you're really talking about is we buy the drugs at the hospital cost plus a markup,
A slight markup, yeah,
Not-
maybe $1 or $2 on
Yeah,
that
but
item.
not the price that the hospital will bill the patient.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Just want to make sure we're
Yep,
talking
yep,
costs
you're absolutely right.
versus bill.
Yep.
Yep, thank you.
Yep, no problem. I'm glad you brought that up. It's just, for people who aren't so used to it all the time, I understand that we do it all the time, and if you're not used to seeing this all the time, sometimes it can be confusing. So,
Chief, one other thing though too, just to be clear on the equipment and on the supplies here. I mean, some people might look at this number and say, this is huge, don't we get everything from the hospital? I think we pretty much beat that up, that there's perishable supplies that you have no choice but to buy. But that also includes splints, which you can't get at the hospital. There's a limited list from the state of Rhode Island that you can exchange from the hospital. Everything else is the responsibility of the provider to purchase, correct?
to that end, Massachusetts does not honor Rhode Island's Harry one-for-one exchange.
Exactly, thank you. So you
We've
guys,
had this argument, we've had this fight with Charlton and St. Anne's, and the places we go, the majority of our calls go to St. Anne and Charlton. It's almost a 50-50 split between the two of them. We have a few that go to Newport. Newport, we can exchange stuff, we can get soft supplies, gauze and cling and other things like that, but we can't do that. Mass
Exactly.
hospitals will not do that for us.
and
So we're left, we have to do it.
and that stuff gets pricey over time, medications.
It does, we have to replace that stuff.
Is this a good question? What percent of the billable that you bring in from Massachusetts versus the Rhode Island? Is that something you can tell? No?
So let me ask you,
Because you
let
said,
me just ask for a little bit more
Okay.
clarification. Do you want to know, do we have a higher percentage from Massachusetts residents, or?
all your medical calls
The
that you,
majority
the
of our
money you
calls
bring
are for
in?
Tiverton residents.
Okay,
But they go to Massachusetts hospitals.
They go to Massachusetts hospitals, correct.
okay,
The reimbursement is based upon the community that it starts in.
okay, thank you.
So,
Right.
to your end, Ruth, when we go to Fall River or Westport on a mutual aid, they're a bonanza for us because Mass pays at a higher rate than Rhode Island does.
Okay, that's
So,
interesting.
when I picked up runs in Fall River and Westport, mutual aid runs, we get a greater reimbursement rate because we're being reimbursed at Massachusetts rates as opposed to Rhode Island rates.
What is that difference? Can you tell me that?
I
Okay,
honestly
that's all right.
couldn't tell you right off the top.
That's okay.
It's-
Thank you, though.
Dependent, how it works out is, an ALS call could be up to $1,300 to $1,400 for a level 1 or a level 2 ALS call. So the number depending, and you have to understand, our collection is based upon what the care provider is gonna pay back to us. So we could be, for each call, it could be anywhere from $100 to $1,300, depending on the call itself. So I can't give you an exact number. I will tell you that we've done it in the past, that statistically, the majority of our calls are for Medicare and Medicaid recipients.
Okay, thank
They
you.
are a huge portion of our calls.
Thank you very much.
The chief, when we call mutual aid, if our rescue's not in service, the mutual aid company gets them.
That's correct. Whoever takes the transport does a call. So if our trucks are down and we call Fall River in, they get the reimbursement for it. Westport, they get the reimbursement. However, we have a reciprocity with them that they will treat our residents like we will treat their residents. Our residents, we gather your insurance information, we bill your insurer, which that's what Mrs. Ferrera does, and we will accept what your insurer gives us. We will not come under Tiverton residents for the copay. So if there is a copay or a co-share on it, we don't go after Tiverton residents for that. In vice versa, we want exactly the same thing. So if Fall River comes in, they accept what our residents' insurance cover them. We don't go after the copays for it. You give it a look like.
Let's go back to protective.
Yep, okay, personal protective gear, that's our firefighting ensemble. Most of it, every year, I'm trying to buy 5 or 6 sets of new gear to replace the older sets as they get worn out or torn. And then when we have, that includes helmets, gloves, face pieces for the breathing apparatus, turnout coat, pants, boots, suspenders and such. A set of turnout gear is probably about $3,200 to $3,300 total with everything included. Office supplies are our paper goods and such, and the printer cartridges and all the items that we use in the office. Software maintenance are some of those programs that we have different fees to maintain them. Some of the contractual things that we have with them. I think we talked about fuel oil and tires. Apparatus maintenance, and I did not even mention this, I forgot to mention this to the council the other day. Our mechanic, who the town has right now at Public Works, does the majority of work on our vehicles. He's retiring in May, April or May, I believe.
Yeah.
Depends on who comes in to fill his spot.
We don't know that.
Pretty,
Well, he hasn't told us.
he hasn't
That's why
told,
when
he
you looked
hasn't,
at me, I don't know the
yeah,
answer.
he hasn't told us for sure, but
He hasn't told us, that's for
we're pretty aware he is gonna be going. So if not, if we don't come up with somebody to fill that spot, and I have been talking with Mr. Anderson about it, someone who is what they call emergency vehicle certified, EVT certified, to work on the emergency vehicles. We may have to start sending our trucks out a lot more, and the rate on that is about $200 an hour. So,
Is the amount, the request, the $45,000 request, is that for parts, or do you?
parts. It's all parts.
So the labor is done by the mechanic?
The labor is done by the mechanic as he's on duty. We have an agreement with Public Works. If it's after hours and something is broken down, then I will reimburse the Public Works an overtime rate that what they have to pay for him. But I'm telling you, it's the greatest way to go, that he's there, he knows these trucks, he fixes them around the clock. The guy is remarkable what he does.
Yeah, we hear good things about it.
Yeah. And station maintenance, I had asked for a little bit more, but I can live with 30,000 on it. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to,
I'm gonna open the floor to questions, and we'll start with Alex and go around and look at them.
No, the part that bothers me, I know we've asked for some money for rescue trucks, and nobody seems to want to put a few $1,000s away to replace them. And we're gonna get caught just like we did with the snowplows.
For the rescue trucks.
Yep.
I have 3 rescue trucks. 2 are on the front line and 1 is in reserve. The one that's in reserve is 14 years old. The life expectancy of a rescue truck is 4 years. How we work it is, they should all be offset, so every 4th year we buy 1 rescue truck. Take the oldest rescue truck and put it in backup status. So we should not be keeping the rescue more than 8 years total. So if we get on the right rotation, and if you look in the packet, I kind of gave you a timeline for the trucks. But the reserve truck, the reserve backup rescue, anytime a rescue goes down, that truck moves in to take its place, except for that truck's been broken down quite a bit too, so.
Excuse me, Chief, don't we have one rescue that's all paid off?
Yeah, I believe this last year.
Why can't we
paid off
just
the
roll
truck.
one over?
It's, I don't know, I don't have the,
Yeah, we do.
I don't, yeah, I think we have one that was paid off.
I don't know, I'll have to look into that.
Just roll the payment over and buy a new one.
Well, because we need a.
Well, the one in the south end should be paid off. See, this is a difficult way to put it as rescue one. The newest truck, which is in the north end, is this truck. The other trucks, see
Oh,
this
this
one?
one.
This one, which is now down south, is actually, should be all paid off, see? Paid off.
Yeah.
It's all paid off.
I guess I'm a little bit puzzled. The rescues are all heavy-duty commercial vehicles, and you're saying they only have a 4-year life?
On front line, because of the running and the idle time and the work that they do, after 4 years, they start to break down. But there's a lot of electrical problems that start developing. And you remember, right now, most of our trucks are over 100,000 miles on the rescues. So they start developing a lot of electrical issues, a lot of mechanical issues, and the repair costs start going up on them. So 4 years is usually what you run something at front line, and then you move it into reserve, where you kind of slow the truck down, you don't use it as much, but you could use it as a fill-in if you needed to. So if we got on the right cycle, all of our trucks would end up being 8-year trucks. But they wouldn't serve 8 years front line. You have to get on the right rotation to do that.
But that's like 100,000 miles odometer time.
Odometer time, exactly.
So more like 400,000 miles running time,
Running, idling time, yes.
engine time.
Engine time, yep.
So Rescue 2 is only 5 years old. And Rescue 3
Rescue,
is
well, don't go by that, because the one that's 5 years old is now in the south end. And that's the one, that's
This
the,
one that we just paid off.
yes. In other words, I moved it from the north end to the
Well,
south end to slow it
Whatever,
down.
so one of
The
our
newer truck.
ambulances is 2. One of our ambulances is 5 years old,
That's correct.
and the other one is 2 years old.
And the other one is 14 years old.
How about this how about this one, 3 or 5 payment?
That's the north end truck. That's in the north, that's the truck that's in the north end.
So that's
the
2 years
27
old.
Yeah, because you had to pay the initial one up front when you ordered the truck. You have an initial payment, and then as you go through.
I don't know why I'm asking the questions, but look, the way I look at it is we have 2 ambulances, one is 5 years old, one is 2 years old.
Correct, and then you have a third truck is the reserve one, which is
Which is the
14.
reserve one that
Rescue 3, which is 5 years old, 14 years old.
Anything else, Alex?
No.
Ms. Rashford?
How many firefighters are not, are we losing or have we lost this year? That, not due to retirement, but because they've changed, they've gone to a different community.
Since January, I've lost 2, and I had a third one that just interviewed in Somerset yesterday.
And, but for this fiscal year, 2017-18, so,
I'd say 5.
and why do you think they're changing communities? Do they want to live in another part of the state? Or personal reasons, or is it a financial
We're not
issue?
competitive as an employer to that. Everybody else works a 42-hour work week, they're working a 56-hour work week. Our pay is not as high as, you know, other departments. If you go to Little Compton, it's a $9,000 increase to go work in Little Compton.
In Little Compton.
In Little
Wow.
Compton. These other departments, they pay more money. The guys that have just left we had a senior guy just leave and go to Middletown. He went into Middletown for about the same exact pay, and within a year, he's gonna be making $4,000 to $5,000 more.
How often, what is the frequency in our town that we're losing our firefighters? Like, are we losing 5 per year on a regular basis?
Don't
Can I
have to.
interrupt this?
Yeah.
Yes.
We've done a lot of statistics, and we're doing it now. Some of this data, I'm not quite sure is true. I don't have it on me, maybe it's in my car. We are losing some, but it's retirement, it's for leaves, it's for our disability, but we have the whole analysis, if you'd like to see it. Who left and why. And we've been doing that during negotiations and everything.
So that's part of the negotiation
Well, it's part
process.
of the discussion with, you know, what we pay and benefits and stuff, yeah. And saying that we're losing people because of certain things. So we've been doing some analysis on it.
I can tell you that what I have from their exit letters, that's what I'm going on, exit letters, and exit interviews with them.
Well, you know, it gets to be an issue of relativity.
Yeah.
Because Tiverton, Little Compton, Middletown, Portsmouth is never gonna be able to pay a firefighter like Providence does, or New York City, or Boston. So if a person is really looking for the most money, they're gonna go to a big city.
But we're not leaving, they're not leaving for big cities,
But-
Cecil.
But still, that's a fact of life.
Yeah.
We can't compete with that. Now,
Do-
when you go to the big city, you pay a price as a firefighter because the conditions are different, the buildings are different, all sorts of stuff. So you
I'm
have
sorry.
you have to look
The whole picture.
and try to work a balance.
My real question is, does it cost us more when we lose these recruits? Does it end up costing us more when we have to keep recruiting new people?
It depends on how you look at it. You know, some will say that you save because you're not paying the salary out on them, but then, as of right now, the number of firefighters we're down, we're paying on overtime. But we lose the, you know, institutional knowledge, you lose the experience, and then we have to train, and we also have to elicit to get people back in to want to fill these positions.
Is it?
There is a cost.
Denise, is this part of the study too, like that?
We've just been looking into the whole thing, and there's all different theories
Okay,
on why people leave and why they stay.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Edwards?
My questions are all going to be about the non-recurring line items for SCBA's.
Sure.
Last year, I believe, we budgeted $19,000 to replace them. Did we do it?
I have replaced our air packs, all the air packs that we had they were coming out of, they call them bookend. There are changes that are created by NIOSH and OSHA as to what the respiratory protection standards are. And you have to be within every 4 to 5 years, they change the standards. When you get out of 2 folds of the changes, then those air packs are no longer viable. They should not be used anymore. So we've been trying to, originally I'd asked for 100,000 to try to get us up because we're trying to get the bottles and the air packs. We have been replacing the air packs. Right now I'm down, I think I've only got 3 more that we needed to. Each year with the 20,000, I could buy 3 air packs. we were buying bottles. But now I'm at a point where I have 52 air bottles, which are what the firefighters use, and there's a picture of it in your packet towards the end there for the firefighter with an air pack on his back, which will tell you that that's what they use. That item, the whole item as one ensemble, cost about $7,000. Each bottle is about $1,000. The bottles that we have only have a 10-year life expectancy on them, and all the ones we have, because they were all bought with a grant in 2004, are coming out of their life expectancy. When they come out of their life expectancy, they have to be destroyed. We can't use them anymore. So I will be down 52 bottles. The bottles are $1,000 apiece.
So-
The council did talk about it last week, and they have made some discussions about how they would try to get to that point, so.
The problem I see is if we buy 52 bottles,
We're
in
back
10
to the
years,
same
we're going to
thing
be
again.
back here again. So to me, it makes more, how many do you have?
I have 52, 57, because I have replaced
That's
some.
all of them.
That's all of them.
It would seem to me that you need to replace 10% of them every year, whether they're due
You're
or not.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But money's had to be used elsewhere to try to get things through. It's,
And we refill our own bottles?
yes, we do. That's the cascade system.
And how many systems do we have?
I have 2 systems which are also out of date. We still
And
use
we
them.
take
They've been
care of them?
maintained. I'm sorry?
Do we take care of them, or do we have somebody else
I
maintain
have
them?
someone come in and take care of them, because the air has to be tested quarterly.
Yeah,
We have to reach a certain quality of the air to be used for breathing apparatus.
and how long do these last?
I'm sorry?
How long would you expect a new one to last?
You would think at least 20 years,
Oh,
but the
okay.
ones we have are old.
Chief
We
Lloyd,
budgeted $19,000 in 16, 17, we spent 18. So we
Okay,
bought
so-
something there.
Yeah, we bought air packs.
Air packs.
We bought, each year I was able to buy 3 air packs to replace the air packs. It's the bottles that
Right.
become the problem. Yes, I'm sorry.
I just need you to clarify. So they were purchased in 2004?
Yes.
And they have a 10-year, so 2014, they were at the end of their
They're
life?
still working off, right.
And we're in 18, so they're 4 years past.
They're coming up at the end that I cannot have them retested anymore. In other words, you take them in, you have them hydrostatically tested, and then when you pass, you keep them on. But at the end of the year, we're not supposed to fill them, we shouldn't be filling them, they need to be destroyed. That's a federal standard.
Is there, that's what I was gonna ask, is there a governing agent that comes in and says,
They won't come, will they come in and look at them? No.
no,
They're
it's
gonna
not
come
an
and look.
inspection process?
No, what will happen is if there is an issue with someone getting hurt, then they're gonna pull the pack, they're gonna pull that, and they're gonna check for the inspection date on it.
Mr. Edwards, any other questions?
No.
Ms. Holland?
All set, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chief, and maybe Denise is looking at the overtime was approved last year was 125, this year 200. Is that driven primarily
We
from,
didn't ask for that, we don't think that's necessary. So I don't know what is driving him to put that much. So that has to be a question he asks. Because 200, I don't feel we'll spend 200.
so obviously, these are all preliminary, what we're looking at, but the column we're showing had 200 in it.
That was my request.
Okay, so, so the question is what's driving this? Is this at a steady state, we're just having more stuff, or because we've lost people, this is driven by overtime for, because we don't have enough people, right? There's a certain amount of overtime that you're gonna get because things happen, right? Some of the vacations and things, and then there's a certain amount that's gonna be driven by vacancies in positions.
Which
And those
happens
vacancies in
every
positions
year.
would be offset by, you don't have to pay the people that they're not there, but if you have someone at a higher pay that has to fill in. So trying to understand, as we look at overtime, how much of the numbers that we should be considering is driven by having vacant positions, and how much of it is due to kind
Well, our
of ups and
overtime
downs. in the
cost was
system.
very high, and then we went from that was one of the drivers for the 3
Mhm.
platoons from 4. And we've been doing very well with overtime. And then we just had this bump in the road right now, which we've had bumps in the road every year. We have lost several men on and off. So 200,000 is a little high, I think. we're still discussing it. 90,000 right now, but that,
Yeah.
but keep in mind, we have people out.
Yeah, right now, 90,000. Where was I on that one? So right now, Nat, I have $36,000 left to get me to the end of the year.
What was the actual for 17, 18?
The actual spend, or
That was
the
the request, what was the actual spend?
the request for 17, 18 was 125,000,
I know what you're saying.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and then
So
we're
again,
at
the
90, so
key-
we're at 90 of that, okay. And
The
year
key
before,
comes
our
down
actual
to,
was 144.
I'm sorry. go
The
ahead.
year before, the actual was
It was
144.
1.1, that's why we
Yeah.
decreased it. And then we thought, well, we're gonna be going to the different platoons, so we thought that we could bring it down a little bit more.
Which would work if we were two above what minimum staffing was. The key is having the additional staff. That's the key to it. That's what cuts the overtime. If you have the additional staff where we can absorb the vacancies and not have to hire back, then the overtime is down. And that was key in the beginning part of the year. But as we start losing staff, right now, I'm down 7 guys. I have a bunch that are out injured, and then I have the 2 that just left, which we're trying to hire back in for.
So we do have some injuries out too.
Yeah, we have 4
Yeah.
4 that are out injured. I just got 1 guy back from an injury, but that's what drives it. If there isn't the extra bodies there to absorb, so I don't have to hire, listen, the guys don't wanna work. They're working like crazy. They don't wanna work the extra hours, but if I don't have 2 above what the minimum is, then I gotta hire.
So the average work week on regular time is 56 hours, am I correct on that?
That's
If
correct.
they're working overtime, how much are they averaging? How many hours are they averaging per week when you are down?
It depends which shifts they're taking. We have a lot of orderbacks. There's at least an additional 12 hours that they're ordered to work.
Do you have a requirement, so many hours on, so many hours off? They can't.
I did at a point in time, but I don't have enough bodies to fill all the spots. That's where I'm at right now. I tried to minimize that because it does get dangerous being on for that long.
There's no, in your contract, or there's no
No,
state
there's not.
regulation that says you can't, 16 on, 8 off, or, so you can work a 24-hour?
Well, they are working too. They are
I'm working 48 hours straight.
They're working 48 and then they have.
Okay.
So at the end of 48, they could be held for another 12 hours. So they could be working up to 60 hours a week.
But part of that time, they're sleeping.
Yeah.
We're trying to.
I'm sorry, I'll go ahead if you had more.
Yeah, the other question was going towards, so last year, the compelling case was, let's bring on a part-time person to help with this third-party billing. It was actually someone who could help do the office stuff, so the person who does it. And if I have this right, so in the presentation sheet that you have, looking at 2017, it was $520,000 was the third-party billing. Okay? And the hope would be that was pitched to us last year was if we spend $16,000, we think we can recoup an extra $100,000, right? And so I just want to make sure I have this right. So the estimates right now is that this year in third-party billing will be somewhere around 625 to 650.
That's correct.
Okay. So it's a delta. It's the money on top of what we call the 520 is what we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, so you're looking at hopefully another $130,000. I know where we're sitting right now, if we compare today to last year at this time, we're 90,000 ahead.
I'm sorry, Chairman Leonard, I need to just piggyback on his question on, when you're down men, is there any difference to what you do with calls? Like, I know you have these reciprocal agreements, so can you do fewer of the other towns and just focus on Tiverton? You do something like that?
We do shut down overtime at different
Okay,
times because
okay.
what will happen is because of the excess number of calls they've had, I won't take a truck out of service, but I won't send it out on mutual aid.
Something
Have
happens,
them-
okay.
Try to get them to rest a little bit after a 48-hour shift. But if something comes into Tiverton, they gotta go to the call. So
Thank you.
we have kind of tried to slow down the mutual aid to different places.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I'm I've got a couple of questions. When you said you were thinking about changing hose to capital, that sort of caught my attention. I think I have trouble from a bean counter standpoint visualizing something as short-lived as a hose, as a capital. But that's really for Mrs. Surratt and Gadsby 34 to figure out.
Hose actually has a 20-year life cycle on it.
Yeah, unless somebody
It's
cuts it.
damaged,
or-
right.
yeah, et cetera.
Yep.
So, how are the backup generators at all the stations? Are they in good shape? I haven't heard any discussion about those for a while.
Yeah, the newest of them, and I believe you were on the council at the time, was the North End generator. So that was a relatively new generator, but that's probably, I want to say, 8 years old now. The other two generators at the stations are significantly older. I've been here 14 years now, and they were here long before I got here.
Yeah.
They have not been replaced.
How frequently do we test run them?
They get test run on a regular basis, and they are serviced at least 3 times a year.
Regular basis being once a week, once a month, once a year?
At least once a week they're run.
Okay. Communication equipment. You talked about how bad this system is, and I want to move up a level. As a fire department, can you talk to the Tiverton Police Department with a common communication net?
Yep.
As both Tiverton Police and Fire, can you talk to a state agency?
Yes.
On a common frequency?
Yes.
Can you talk to Portsmouth,
Yes.
Fall River?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
Third-party billing, I'm looking back at last year. Estimated revenue of 550, which was up from 440 the year before. So you're expecting 620, am I missing something?
Between 620 and 650.
So actually, 220 from 2 years ago. Because looking at my files from last year, it looked like, because I remember you put in the final revenue number, the estimated increase.
Again, estimates were, right, okay.
So that came in at 550, but that was including the additional 100 you expected to get by hiring a new person, right?
I'm not positive of that, Justin. I'm not.
Because I remember being,
Okay.
they're putting this expectation where they're, the money where their mouth is here, and they're putting this expectation.
But we didn't hire that employee till this employee started in September, so for this year.
Right, but what I'm saying is we estimated that line item at 550 for this fiscal year.
For this year.
But that, my recollection is that included already the 100,000 extra, but if you're saying you're coming in at 620, then you should be 160,000 more.
Okay.
That's good if it is, I'm just trying to understand.
Yes, I think you're right, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to,
Is the call volume up, chief?
Yes, it is.
So medical billing is up?
yeah.
So that makes a difference as well?
Yeah, it is really up.
That's
If
way
what
up.
you're asking.
Yeah, I'm just trying to straighten
The only
it
reason-
out.
More than,
and I
it's
got it.
certainly more than
Yeah.
projected. If
Right.
that's what you're asking.
Cash cow.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's what
Can
we.
we hire another secretary?
Well,
Because the rate of growth is amazing.
But there's two things that's driving it. There could be the number of calls that are coming in.
Yes.
I think the argument here is that there was a backlog or there was stuff left on the table that we weren't
Correct.
getting to by doing this.
To some degree, but it's also with the timeliness with which these get handled and moved forward, we've caught up and we're there. So the ongoing promptness of getting these bills processed and put through is making a big difference too. Because it's all relative to time to getting the bills into the insurers.
Are we caught up?
Pretty close to it, yeah. We're probably a month behind now, if that.
You know, if you really want to look at it from a pretty well pure business standpoint, keeping in mind your percentages of rescue runs is much higher than the actual fire runs, what we ought to be doing is buying more rescues, hiring more paramedics, so we can do more billing. And you could argue from
Yeah, but
that
we have to
standpoint.
have the sick people to call,
Well,
call
you
too.
hire them
See,
more
sometimes
rescue
you-
stations. You have the advantage that the
At some
population
point,
is
you know.
older.
I understand what you're saying. I think you do need to understand that at some point there is a breakover point here. We can't just, because we want more, we can't just keep making it. I think we're,
We can't generate sick people,
No, we can't generate them.
but.
well, depends on how you go about it.
Yeah.
That's true.
No, I thought he was saying you don't need the fire truck as much as you need the,
I will tell you,
More rescues.
I will tell you that there is a program out there that I certainly would like to investigate, and it's called Wellness Care, where they have, and there's been some federal grants for it to look into it, where they pay to hire paramedics. You put them in a vehicle, and what those paramedics do is they do wellness checks and healthcare checks on the elderly, just like VNA does. It's a big thing that's sweeping the West Coast right now, and you bill for that service to care for elderly and infirm people in their houses. And they find that by putting the healthcare provider in close proximity to them, they've cut down on the amount of hospital visits because of that.
But will our Medicaid system in the state go along with that?
Well, they just put the legislation into our protocols to allow that to happen, but there's a lot more I need to find out before I could even bring that forward, but it's something else to look at going forward.
So where are you right now with the third-party billing? You know the number for right now? You said it's about 90,000 more, but do you know what it is?
Justin, I'd lie to you if I told you exactly. I knew what it was right now. I didn't ask for the bottom line number today. I just asked how much were we ahead of last year.
And this is just because I saw a story from somewhere in Rhode Island, I can't remember where. Differential pay, if somebody is up a ranker in differential pay and they go out on disabled at that day, do they count at that higher rate for disabled? So they do.
They
So
do.
in police they don't, but in fire they do.
That's a contractual item. That's under,
Are you saying in police they don't?
No, because I asked the police, the acting chief, and he said no.
He said no?
Yeah, so.
I believe he's wrong on that one. I think when you're serving in the capacity of a higher rank,
And
I
you're
think
not
that's
Oh, you
stable.
go out in that rank.
You
You
go
go
out
out
the rank
at the
that you're
higher rate.
serving at the time.
One day.
The police said yes, I believe.
I think he said yes.
I wasn't here.
I remember him saying
Well, I
yes.
was here. I think
But
it
I
is
thought
yes.
that we
Yes,
asked
it
it,
is.
like, if,
State
okay,
law.
say I get promoted today, and then tomorrow I break my leg, you know.
No, if you're promoted, but this is shifted right up,
So-
so this is.
this is not.
This
This is if you're working as a.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you said no. Because I remember saying, oh, good. And I wouldn't say, oh, good. All right, my other question, just, so you have the third-party billing, is there any other revenue that comes into the fire department?
Coming forward, and we don't know yet, anticipating with the casino coming in, there will be details that'll be working at the casino. Because they have to have firefighters on there because of the capacity of the casino. When our firefighters work a detail at the casino, the town will put on a 25% increase onto that for administrative fees. We don't have a firm handle because a lot of that depends upon when the casino comes in and opens, and then their hours of operation and where we are with that. But there will be a revenue stream. We're kind of estimating that around 100,000, but that's a swag. I don't have
But
enough.
right now, there's nothing? I mean, I know in this
We don't,
budget.
there are no details right now that we
No, I
regularly
met
do.
with the casino this week, actually, and we're discussing terms of all of that. So nothing is written in stone yet, and we don't know what percentage we're gonna have.
Well, what I'm looking for, I'm trying to understand, because we discovered this with the police department. Is there any revenue that doesn't come in as revenue, that comes in as a negative expenditure or anything like that?
Negative, no, nothing. They do a lot more patrol details, road work details. We don't do any of that.
Do details, that, like that.
Right.
Ms. Johnson?
Chief, getting back to the air packs,
Oh, yeah, wait a minute, smoke detection.
And that has to go into fire prevention, doesn't it?
That goes
That's
into
where
fire.
Justin's coming from.
That goes into the fire prevention account.
That's
But plan
one.
review comes in, but
Yeah, but that's what he's talking about.
He's talking about things that,
Money
ones that
that we
come in that
receive.
don't go into the revenue stream.
Go into the general fund.
Because they're restricted to
all right,
fire
okay, all right.
prevention.
And I don't know what that, I couldn't tell
I
you
think
what
they're
that, it's
restricted.
probably about $3,000 if
Yeah,
that.
that one's one. Well, just to be transparent about
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
that one is one, I think.
yeah. you're right.
Yeah.
Where would that appear?
I'll have to look into that for you.
Yeah, we have an account for that goes into that supplements with, like when we go into the schools and do programs, we use that money to pay for the bikes and the other things for the
Well, it
kids
all
when we
goes
do
back.
fire prevention programs. We buy the things that are given out when the kids come to visit, or we go do a field day, or we go do the Fort Barton Park Gray, or any of those types of public events. We give out stickers and different things like that.
And so that revenue comes from,
Smoke detector fees. That was the I think it's $35 for each
I
smoke.
will be able to find, I don't have it
inspection.
all in front of me.
Yeah.
all right, so I got, so you do smoke inspection fees, you get this money and you use it for fire prevention,
Right.
which does not appear on our budget, or is a negative revenue?
We'll check with the treasurer for you and come back with that answer.
It does filter in and filter out.
It does filter
Yeah.
in, yeah.
It's not something that's not recorded.
Oh, yeah,
By
all,
state
everything is.
statute, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
It is,
It is
it's,
by statute.
yeah, it's not something that, it's something we have to do, but
Right.
it is one of the.
Right.
Do you give away free smoke detectors with that? I think
No, we
so.
don't.
Nancy
We,
wants one, that's, I just want to say that.
we were able last year to do a program we did a program last year with Red Cross, where Red Cross came in and they had someone come in and all the guys went out and anybody who wanted one, they went and they put it in their
That's right.
home. We did 200 smoke detectors in, I think it was
That's
2
what
days.
she's talking about.
Yeah,
That's what
that was all for free. That was all done by, I forgot who, Kitty Fire Extinguishers did that, and the Red Cross did that as a home safety measure. We were able to jump on that one. Mr. Paul, I'm sorry.
No, Chief, I just had a question on the air pack,
Sure.
air bottle replacement, because you have it estimated at roughly 5,000 each, and we're scratching pennies together to replace 3 a year. Is the smarter thing here, I mean, I'm one of 11 financial geniuses here, is the smarter thing here to budget X amount of dollars over the course of 10 years, replace all the packs, budget over the course of 10 years, replace all the packs? I know a lot of other fire departments will budget
Right.
25,000 a year over 10 years, 250,000 is in that account, you replace the entire fleet of air packs. A lot of departments do that.
Dave, that would have to be a restricted account, because
Yeah,
if that
no,
stayed
I'm
there,
aware,
that
but I'm saying, is that the
would go
smarter
right back.
option here as opposed to this continuous, we're replacing 3, replacing 3,
Well, we do
replacing
this
3?
with a lot of things, it's not just.
Well, I'm aware of that with the vehicles as well, we're cutting $500 on a specific line, but then the interest we're paying to finance vehicles is outrageous, when we should be budgeting those vehicles over the course of 5 or 10 years and buying the
And
vehicle,
buying it right
Well,
out.
that's why we are,
working on it.
in the process of talking about a capital
No, I'm sorry.
fund where, is restricted, and we can put part of different proceeds into that, and then we could buy vehicles.
We've got people banging their heads against the wall over $200.
That's,
$200
and some places do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, as long as we
Lincoln
have
does that.
No, David,
money right.
Makes sense.
We've been talking about,
Like, how much do we pay over the course of a vehicle purchase in interest? Typically,
I honestly don't
yeah,
know.
that should be outright,
It
that should
depends
be
on the
outright
dollar amount.
purchase.
The engines are 500,000, the rescues are
so on an engine, if you pay
325,000.
$500,000 for the engine, what did you pay in interest over
well,
the
it
course?
depends on what we got the interest at,
Right, whatever, I think,
at the time.
I don't remember what the last interest rate
No, I
was
don't
on the
either.
engine.
I hear so many interest rates, I
Yeah.
don't know what.
I hate to tell you, but I remember when we never leased, we bought outright.
Yeah, that's, you should be doing
Honestly,
that.
Nancy, that's the way to go.
How long ago was it?
Long time ago.
Right, I'm not saying how long,
Well-
I'm just saying I was
She doesn't
here and
want
I
to
was
take
the
it.
treasurer.
Well,
What
that's
are you
the right way.
referring to,
way.
Nancy, as to how long ago?
That's the right way.
Long, 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 long time ago.
She's not gonna tell you, because.
Relatively recently.
I'd say in the late 90s, we started leasing.
I was just wondering what the,
to buy
Yeah, not since I've been around.
I was just wondering what the dollar amount savings would
The
be.
prices are on.
I think you'll find, when you look at it, it's pretty high. Not just per vehicle, but overall, on all of these, it's a combination of all of these purchases. A lot of money.
But right now, we can't afford to
Yeah.
buy a $500,000 engine, so
Yeah.
we can't
But you
even-
can start
we
the,
can't even buy
you
a
can,
Volvo.
you can start the account saving them.
I mean,
Denise, you can start saving for it, that account now. Start.
That's what is being talked about with casino revenue and other things that we're talking about. It's
Sounds
not
like a
all
good
casino
use.
revenue. I don't want to get everybody upset.
No, casino revenue's not on the agenda.
No,
on the
right.
agenda.
But that's what
So
we're
does
talking about,
anybody
different
else-
Right,
ways to get money.
Does anybody else have any questions for Chief Boyd?
Another $1 million.
Seeing none, I will.
Thank you very much for listening, I appreciate it. If you,
Thank
We
you.
reserve
Mr.
the
Chairman, if you
right-
have any other questions that come up, I'd be more than glad to try to answer them for you at any
We
time.
reserve the right to recall you.
Absolutely.
But before you leave the hot seat, Chief, though, is that Zoll monitor off the table? Is this something that we're still looking at? Is there something Saturday?
We're talking about it, but there's only a pot of money, and we're trying to figure out who gets what right now. So, I mean, it's not, we're not saying this isn't a priority, but our budget's up above 8%. We can't do that. So we've got to figure this out, and I know everybody thinks everything's important, but right now, our budget's over 8%, and we are, yes.
Yes.
So, and I'm not willing to go over 8%, and we have to have a reason to go above the cap. And I don't think we have substantial reason right now to go above the cap.
My
Per law, it's not without.
But there are
But-
conversations being had about staggering these.
There's always conversation being had about that, yes.
But my point, and I've said this every year that I come before you, is my point is to fight for my department, fight for my men, and fight for what I think I need to protect the citizens. And yes, there is a dollar sign to that, but I do understand, and I wholeheartedly agree, there are other departments that need things, but if I don't put my needs out there, so at least you can have a discussion about it, or at least talk about it, as uncomfortable as that may be, I'm doing a disservice to anybody. So just like with the air packs, yeah, this, honestly, it slipped through the cracks as to where we are, and now we're here. So, again, I'm trying not to do that, I'm trying to put all of it forward. I'm not trying to say that my department deserves more than anybody else. That's the decision you all have to make. But mine is to put forward my needs and
Right.
try to have the fight for it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So would you like me to tell you what departments we're doing for Saturday?
Yes.
All right, we're doing, Nancy, help me with this, because this is all in memory. And a sequel, we're doing senior center.
Why don't we just roll the paint over? I don't know.
Nancy, I think it's the 20th.
One moment, please.
Yeah.
while
You're not
I
adding
pull
anything to
exit
the budget.
stage
Right.
right.
I'm trying.
So-
Nancy has to help me, because as Cecil said the other day, I'm getting meeting fatigue. That's what he told me. That's how he diagnosed it. And I agree with him. All right, and she has meeting fatigue. Okay, so Saturday I'm doing senior center, harbor master,
Harbor Commission,
library.
And then we're going back to take
Well, I'm gonna
votes.
do 5, but there's something else I'm doing. Maybe that's it.
No, I
Oh,
think
the
that's
agenda's
it.
right here, wait a minute.
No. Some of the others that they're doing, she's doing
Recreation.
is votes.
Recreation.
Yeah,
I'm
recreation.
doing parks and recreation, I'm doing rubbish recycling.
Right. Because when DPW was before the council
It is a very
and you,
ambitious meeting
we
next
didn't
Saturday.
mention the rubbish collection, so that's on.
I'm gonna try to get through those.
And get better votes.
So there certainly as many discussions and potentially votes for,
This Saturday coming up.
We've got to stop voting, so yes. We have voted on some things, like the police department's pretty much done all of that. The fire, we had a consensus kind of vote, but we have to go back a little bit, because everybody was gonna go home and think about it. On the DPW, we've done a complete vote on that. And I think that reflects this.
We'll still have building
You,
maintenance.
everything you named is this Saturday?
Gonna try.
Try, with the fire department, too.
The fire department just votes. It's
Just voting.
Yeah, it's not for
Okay.
discussion.
Just voting.
Just voting.
Yeah.
Well, we had a whole night of fire.
Yes, I
So
know.
I think that people pretty much having them. And some of these will not be as difficult as others, so. Okay?
Because I'm just gonna keep in mind that the 7th of March, which is about 2 weeks 2.5 weeks away. That's when final budgets have to be completed,
So,
so.
and we know that, and we're gonna try to have additional meetings, but next week we're gonna hire a town administrator and a bunch of other things.
Hire the
So-
administrator. That's
Yeah, I
the
gotta
key.
get an
Hire the
administrator.
administrator. Okay.
Thank you, Denise, thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Update on site visits. I believe that our secretary has been doing that.
So, I wasn't here last week. I understand that nothing was updated on site visits, correct?
Correct.
So, I think the meeting before that, which was the first, when I was here, I made a comment that we would wait till you got back so we could all discuss it. So we didn't move ahead and schedule or plan anything yet. So that's where we're at. So basically, we did nothing when you went to Florida.
Okay. Review and approval of meeting minutes, I think. Mr. Secretary, you sent out.
So I have the 25th of January. I have the site visit for DPW from the 27th. I'm going to pass out February 1st, and then Deb, Janik, in my absence last week, was the 8th. Those were all emailed out. I have copies of all those. Everyone will get a copy. And if you could check those over. I'm sorry it's so much at once,
That's okay.
but we've had a lot of people in and out, including myself, so I think I'm all caught up. If everyone's okay with approving these, I can put them up on the state website, and we'll be caught up to tonight.
When I started on the fire department, they were paying us $7,200 a year. 3,200, 72 hours a week. And I couldn't understand why I left.
The DPW site visit?
Here's the back.
February 1st. February 1st. This is February 8th from last week. That's the one that Deb did.
Extra, I guess.
I've been giving you a copy
Oh,
of
yeah,
all of
thank you
them.
for that.
You bet.
Okay, where would you like to start?
So, I know it's far back, starting on the 25th, but do we all want to look at the 25th since it's the farthest back? That was the first one that was handed out. And we can take that one first and vote on that one when everyone's taking a look at it. Just as a reminder of the 25th, that was the one where we did not have video, so
25th is okay.
I tried to do my best in catching
So-
everything I
so-
could.
So that's why it's a longer.
Should have been
That
a little
makes
bit longer, but I tried my best
Yeah, that's
to
great.
put everything I thought in there. If
That's great.
anyone
Thanks,
sees
Mike.
anything that they remember, or they have some notes and they want to, or if you want to wait till the next meeting to approve it because of that, to be safe, that's fine by me, but that's definitely my best effort. That was from our assistant town solicitor. That was most of it.
I'll let people read. I'd make a motion to approve the minutes of January 25th.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
Jen is out of the room. She's out of the room. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, everyone,
Yeah,
Justin
everybody
abstains.
else.
Jen's not here. That's from 1.5. Everyone's here. Oh, no, we have 10 points. 8. Yes. 1. What do we call Jen for not voting? Do we
We're gonna abstain.
abstain? She would be an abstinent?
Just for the moment.
She's an abstinent? Abstention, yeah, okay. I want to get these right. Okay. So, we'll leave it at that, right? So the next one would be the site visit from the DPW. Should be pretty short. I was there late and had to leave early, unfortunately, but if anyone wants to do anything different with that, I just tried to do the minimum there, to be honest with you. I think if you were there, you got what you needed out of that, but
It's fine.
I'd make a motion to approve the January 27th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes for January 27th? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor?
Also abstaining, I was not present.
Oh, I can't vote, I wasn't there. I'll have to abstain.
So,
so we have Mr. Edwards abstaining. We have
27th.
Daniel and Jay abstaining, or abstaining.
Alex, 27th, hand up, okay.
And I abstain.
Okay, so we have 3.
And Cecil.
Thank you for giving me the time. The next one should be from the 1st.
On the first, I was not here at the meeting.
And did I put you in there?
Yes.
I was absent.
you're absent, it says you're absent.
Yep.
So 25th, February 1st. Okay, so am I right on that? Cecil was away, Cecil, sorry, and Alex, you were not there. I got that one right?
Yep.
Yep.
Put a quick highlight from Chief Jones. This one was recorded, so we didn't have any minutes to approve. We didn't have any site visits that week, so it was really just a presentation.
Make a motion to approve the February 1st minutes.
You have a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? I abstain. Wasn't here. Alex abstained.
Alex abstained too. The last set is from last week, which was February 8th. I was not here, so I am obviously abstaining. I know that Jen was not here. And who was,
Both Jennifers were.
oh, and sorry, Mrs. Rashley was not here either. Deb took the minute, she is not here, so that leaves just 7 of you, I believe. If you want to look this over, I can't answer anything. All I did was print these out. So Deb put on the end that she submitted these in absence of myself. So I will leave it all up to you.
I make a motion to accept the February 8th minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor?
Thank you for being patient with the new secretary. I'm trying my best.
These are all copies. Brings us to distribution of documents, if any. Don't see anybody, so that brings us to Budget Committee roll. And as Mr. McNally said in his email to everybody, that means basically you've got to take a look at who's going to be chair, et cetera.
You definitely won't
No,
continue
no,
for the duration, just,
no,
nope.
cannot.
Cecil, would you consider being vice chair if elected? No, okay.
Would you consider being secretary? I will gladly give it to you.
Mike, you're doing great.
So I think we need to have a discussion on this. I know it's hard for some people to step up. I certainly am the secretary, so I'm going to abstain from putting myself out there because I can't do two roles. I don't know if we want to discuss this. I don't think it's fair to name anyone. So
Mr. McNally, would you accept a nomination?
I would accept it if it's the will of the committee.
Oh.
I'll put it this way, Brennan. Everyone's been kind to me this year in my rookie debut here, but I think everyone would be willing to help if you would be willing to step up just as I did. So I'm trying my best, but I think you would do a great job.
So I'm going to interpret that exchange as a nomination and a second. So is there any other candidates to be the new chair of the Budget Committee for the balance of the year?
Can I make a comment? I'm not.
First, is there any other
First, okay.
person?
I would have to.
Okay, so now there's no others.
Now can I make a comment?
Now.
Okay. I know there are other people, too, that would be capable of doing it, and just want to mention that, but I know that Brendan would, too. So just mentioning that, and that there are new people, so I think it's going to work out fine, yeah. Just wanted to mention it, thank you. There's other people, including, so.
Well, I think there's another discussion following to talk about vice chair.
Right.
That's right. First we have to elect a new chairman, and since there is only one candidate, I'll ask the secretary to cast a vote of one to elect the new chairman, which is an arcane, trivial way of doing it.
So Cecil will be stepping down effective next meeting, correct?
Nope,
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay, so effective after the close of today. We had a nomination for Brennan McNally. It was by Jennifer Rochley. Did I say your name right?
Rashly.
Rashly. Okay. I'm sorry. Seconded by myself. So would we like to take a vote for Mr. Brennan McNally?
You're going to cast one ballot.
One ballot.
You say one ballot for Mr.
Oh, sorry.
Say unanimous consent.
Yeah, okay.
Or we could vote.
I think I've got it down. So unanimous consent, it's Brendan.
Okay.
So
So we have,
objection.
so is there any objection? And if not, it would be a unanimous consent for Mr. Brennan McNally for the role of Chair of the Budget Committee.
Very good. Thank you.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Now, Mr. McNally can take over and figure out who's going to be the vice chair.
Oh, it's
So he
effective,
doesn't go
it's
next meeting,
effective
he goes right
immediately?
now.
That's right.
Yeah, it's done.
Yes, indeed.
Just give him the gavel.
He
Get the
had
gavel.
this one all planned out.
Oh,
I hope you use it more than he did.
dear.
You're not officially under the bus. You would make a good vice president.
No, I wouldn't.
Nothing.
So we have an open vice chair. So do I have any nominations from the committee to take on the role? It's a tough one.
I'd like to make a nomination. Jay Edwards. I would like to nominate Jay Edwards for vice chair.
Excuse me?
Do you have interest in it?
If elected, I will serve.
I will second that nomination.
Okay. We have a nomination and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Secretary cast one ballot.
Are there any other
nominations?
Okay. Hearing no other nominations? Secretary?
We'll do a unanimous consent again.
So there will be unanimous consent to make Mr. Jay Edwards the new vice chair. Any objections?
Yes.
So now.
Congratulations, Mr. Edwards.
You get a pay raise.
Now we need a new secretary? Is
That's
this
right.
going?
Pass
the potato?
Yep. Next, yep. So next agenda item number 9 is any other business before the committee.
I'd like to, I think being an administrative thing, this is appropriately done under other. I just wanted to raise, I was absent for the discussion of public comment, and I just want to point out that the structure we've created here is that people can only comment on things that haven't been discussed yet. So it's kind of, unless somebody in town knows a department really well and says, I want to go talk about this at the budget committee, we haven't allowed any real opportunity for people to just say, I heard this during one of your meetings, and I wanted to mention it. So I'm just throwing that out there. I said in the past, last year, I think the way it used to be done most often was people could just come up at any time and talk, and that seemed to be fine. It wasn't as if the meetings went on 4 hours because people were just in line to talk. Look at the room. But it's something to consider, that restricting people to commenting on things that haven't been discussed yet is
Was it videotaped for that? I can't remember. Was that the meeting that was videotaped or it wasn't? I remember that being a topic of conversation.
Mhm.
Was, there were two sides of it. One was where people were upset by the comments that were made in the past and felt like you needed to have a scope as to what people could talk about. And there was discussion about talking after, like DPW come in and people coming in and saying, can I talk about DPW? That was voted out. So where would you find scope? So if you said, okay, they can talk the week after, or, because there was a large conversation about there needed to be a scope, because we didn't want to talk about the past, and things that weren't relevant at all to anything that we did, and that was an issue that we had last year.
We had no video that day.
That was the meeting that had no video. So where would you bring it?
my own preference would be that people could come up immediately after any given presentation or during and comment on that presentation. I think that would cover a lot of the objections we had, say, last year where we were getting extraneous commentary. Alternately, I think if somebody could come in and cite an agenda of a previous meeting, having seen it at home and they wanted to comment on something, I think that'd be appropriate. Again, these are just my preferences. People can put in, written commentary if they're really interested.
I think it's fair to have comments because you weren't here that day, but I was just trying to figure out where.
Yeah, but
Justin, any previous meeting or just the prior week?
I would say any, because they're all available on YouTube. I don't think we'll
Can I
get it.
interject something in here?
Sure.
'Cause I sort of feel like I started this whole ball of worms. Believe it or not, this past week, I got 37 phone calls about this. Now, you all know that for every phone call that you get, there's 100 that you didn't. You never hear from those people. The recurring theme was, you need to look at history. You need to look at past meetings. You need to look about what's liable to be coming up. In other words, anything should be fair game. My big problem was last year was we did not seem to have any control. People could get out of hand. So I'm going to change my tune a little bit here. It's incumbent that somebody, preferably the president, be ready to slam the gavel and call somebody out of order if they start going off on a real tangent. But I've sort of changed my opinion here to where we need to let people speak about the budget process, because they'll read the Secana Times and they'll see something in there, you know, what the town council's doing or not doing, and they'll read about something that the budget committee did or didn't do. And if we don't allow them to talk about it or speak about it, or say, well, last year, how come the fire department got money for this and now they're not? We've sort of lost the democratic process.
I think the conversation has to be about budgets. If I remember from being in the audience last year or watching it on YouTube, there were conversations that had nothing to do with what your work was that year.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there were people that I think don't get credit for coming up. There was a woman, and I can't remember, but she had a very detailed letter towards the end that was really what her angle was from a taxpayer and what she would like to have envisioned as you were going into the voting process. So I think people should be able to come up and talk about things, but I think it has to pertain to the budget, not previous things that you don't even listen to, like, you know.
Well, we have no control over.
Yeah,
We have no
like
control over
charter
contracts
complaints,
or
you have no
stuff.
things like that, yeah.
So we took care of that with the second sentence, where you can talk about anything related to the FY 18-19 budget. That limited some of what we heard last year.
But we included on the current posted agenda
Yeah.
to make sure that it was on topic.
On topic for the
Maybe we
day.
need to take that
But
out.
they take that, the calls I got took that to mean, well, they said two things. We have an agenda, all right, so it says, like tonight's, public comment came first, and then we're gonna talk about the fire department, the town assessor, and the tax collector. They all took that to mean they couldn't talk about those three things, only about last week's meeting.
Well, they were wrong.
Well,
Or if they talked about these things, they had no idea what the chief was gonna say because they came, you know, they made their comments
I think
first.
it's valuable to have the conversation after the present, like, to be able to come
Well,
in next
that's-
week and go, well, this dollar amount was thus, and why,
Yeah,
and why.
that was
you can't
pretty
talk
much the
about it.
common refrain. The public comment should either come after tonight or next week about tonight.
Sally, how do you handle it at the school committee?
Anybody can come up and talk about
Any, at any time, on
And I've
any,
been called out of order myself, so that's the job of the chair. Just, you know, if they're going off topic or being personalized, you just put your gavel down and you have every right to do that. But I find this thing that you voted on extremely limited. Sitting here and I'm going, I can't talk about that, I can't talk about next week either, because something else is gonna be on the agenda, right? So I
We have to
totally
change
agree
it.
with Justin.
Well,
I'm also in agreement with Mr. Katz, because I was here a lot last year, and I added things, and I added them at my own discretion when I wanted to, when public comment was taken.
when we voted on this, we said, we'll take a vote and then revisit it, and.
Which is what we're
um,
doing, right?
I think there's value in being able to say something after the presentation. How do you talk about something that you don't know
I agree.
what's being discussed? So I think we can revisit that.
If I could make a pitch for maybe probably the most liberal view of this. 10 years ago or so, it was a town council two ago that changed it, I think, around. The practice throughout town was if something was coming up, you went up to the podium and chairman recognized you,
Yeah.
and you could talk with the people giving the presentation, you could talk and offer whatever information you had or opinions. And that had an effect of keeping it on topic, because you're not going to come up in the middle of the fire chief's presentation and say, charter complaints stink. You know, you're going to stick to that topic, and I thought that worked very well. The town council 10 years ago changed it to where there was a commentary period at the beginning, which made it more of like a public forum, like a letter to the editor or something, and that opened up the prospect of additional topics. So my suggestion would be to just go back to allowing people to come to to the podium, and if they're recognized by the chairman, comment, and that sort of establishes an authority of the chairman to recognize and also to expel from the podium, I guess you would say.
One more thing, the open forum, like in the school department, is on there, so you can actually talk about something that's not on the agenda. We can't comment on it. We just have to sit there, and then if it's something everyone thinks should be brought to the a person in the public could come forward of something they've been thinking about, or even safety or something, worrying about, and they could stand there and say, I really want to discuss this, and talk a little bit about it and say, put it on the agenda. So that piece takes to something off the agenda, and then the other piece is Justin said, I've been coming to these since like 2003, and we've always been allowed, no matter who was sitting there, to just come up appropriate. And history is important. I think it's so important to have the context of it. You can say, you know, this is happening now, and everybody's like, but then if you explain how it came about, then everybody's, oh, okay.
Well, remember, we're not the town council, we're the budget committee, and so we do just want to keep it to budget topics.
course.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Can,
Yeah. Justin, do you have a text that you'd like to propose?
Well, yeah, I would move that we allow members of the public to request by contacting the secretary to be on the agenda if they have just a comment, a general comment, and then to speak on any matter before the budget committee throughout the meeting if recognized at the podium.
about the FY 18-19 budget.
Can I just ask clarification real quick? So if we wouldn't do it at the beginning of the meeting where they have 3 minutes, it would be like if Chief was here presenting, someone could come up and ask a question during the presentation?
Or offer,
Or after?
yeah, I mean, they would have to be recognized, so.
Would you limit that time? Like if you have someone that continually comes up and is lengthening the meeting, or do you leave it at 3 minutes?
3 minutes
You
is
could say
usually.
3 minutes, and we can revisit these things, so if it's. start
3
with
minutes
Start
with the
with three.
discretion
expand it, or,
of the
yeah,
chair.
or
Right.
say no limit.
Say a
if it
lot,
gets out of
3
hand,
minutes.
then
Right.
limit it, but-
But also to keep it pertinent to the budget.
Right, we said fiscal 18-19, yeah.
Well, I would even say the matter of discussion at the, I guess, budget.
Well, because we don't want people coming in.
About town council matters, for example.
and-
Well, no,
Or
I mean,
school
you
matters.
don't want, you
And-
don't want somebody coming up while the fire chief's here and saying, I want to talk about the police department.
No.
You know, so.
Well, that's why you
I don't
have the
think that would
chairman
happen.
Yeah,
recognize it.
or the polar plunge, or what their future plans are for how to develop the town. So
Yeah.
I think it needs to be pertinent to budget issues.
Right.
So a question would be is, in terms of process, can we have a vote in terms of a policy the way we're doing? Is it, I'll defer to my expert next door, is it something that those who voted in favor then have to say you
Yeah,
allow?
somebody that voted in favor has to make a motion to reconsider. And then somebody who voted in favor has to second.
Okay.
Then once
Right.
it's reconsidered, then
Well, I make a motion that we reconsider.
I second it.
Okay.
Whoa.
Jay seconded,
Who was second? Mr.
right
Evans?
here.
Because I sort of screwed it up.
And then
now we open the floor to.
there's just discussion anymore, or if someone wants to make a motion in terms of changing the language here to reflect what we're looking to do, or if there's newly proposed language.
I'd like to propose the language, make a motion to change the language to be public comment. Members of the public will get 3 minutes at the end of the meeting after.
No, during the meeting.
You missed the topic.
Okay, I thought we said end. Okay, so someone else can, so you're saying they can
I'm
come
sorry,
up
I didn't
anytime
mean to be
during.
rude.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. Justin, do you want to say it again?
Yeah, Justin can say it. Maybe Justin can do it.
Okay. Under public commentary. Members of the public may address the budget committee at any time during a budget committee meeting, if recognized by the chair, with a limit of 3 minutes. Before that, though, if recognized by the chair, pertinent to the FY19 budget with a 3-minute limit. Requests for other matters to appear on the agenda may be made through the secretary.
I second that.
Any discussion on?
Well, what are we gonna do with anybody that wants to put written comments in?
That was one of two things I was gonna say. Do we want to continue the written, if anybody wishes to email or write to the budget committee or a member of, where we can then share it?
I don't know that we have a right to prevent people from
Yeah,
corresponding to us.
but if we don't put it on, if we don't say it, they may not know it.
I don't think they have our emails, do they?
Probably
Oh,
not. We have to ask
Your phone
the IT.
number, so you could forward them to us.
We have to ask the IT
Let me tell you
guy.
about those phone numbers.
I think they were gonna give them to Nancy Mello, and she was gonna give them to
What
us.
to flow would be they would send it, and whoever said that we can't stop them, that's correct. They can have
Yeah.
tears, but the best way, without getting all personal emails out, is for it to go to Mrs. Mello.
Right.
And then, once she receives it and sends it to us, then it's a public document, and anybody can go from there. So,
Can I just ask a question? It's on the floor right now, is that, so during presentations, people will be coming up and when people are giving presentations, is it better to move it just to the, after the presentation is made and then hearing all the comments, so it's organized and not like constantly interrupting the
Yeah.
person
I agree.
that is here to sit?
Because
I just feel
he's,
like-
yeah,
I mean, you do have to be acknowledged, but you have to stop the person that's
they have a
giving the
presentation.
Yeah.
And during the presentation, we're asking our questions.
Right.
So is it
I
better
agree.
just to move it just under, like, if you have, like tonight, the fire department, and then give a few moments for public comment, and then after the tax assessor, so that it's a little more organized and not.
Yeah, you don't-
Disjointed.
You don't want,
How many more departments do we have coming in front of us?
No, I know, but I'm just
But this
saying,
could be for
instead of
future
us
years,
just,
I mean,
stopping
it's like-
the person,
There's
I
not
just
many
think
people.
that
but
takes
there,
away from what
and
they're
there are
doing.
always hot issues. I mean, you could get stuck
And
in the
then
middle.
when the whole presentation is done, you've heard the whole thing,
Yeah.
and then you can come up and make one comment, or however you're gonna present it, but it's not that back and, well, let me bring up this, and let me bring up that, or you can, and piggyback our questions, all of our questions will have been asked at that point, and then they can also give feedback on what we've discussed.
That would be a fair process, just from observation of how often these meetings are attended and public commentary. That's hasn't been really an issue.
I guess my feedback for that was because in the past, like last year, you didn't really have the type of comments that you had before either, that you had in the presentations that you had last year and some of the hot buttons. But I think it keeps it just a little more organized and still gives everybody the opportunity to talk.
Yeah, I agree.
Sitting or respect.
I agree, because I think we need to have some continuity too in what
Yeah.
we're determining,
Right, I
so.
think it's nice that we.
Yeah, I agree with you.
They make their presentation, we go around the table, ask our questions.
Right.
And then they have all. the
That gives them,
information.
right, more info,
We
yeah.
have our kind of.
I totally agree with Jennifer on
And
that.
then again, if that doesn't work and we want to revisit it, we can change it again. But this gives us a method.
I think after under each department, let someone come up.
I make a motion to, Jen, you want to make the motion to revise
Wait,
it?
I've got one thing I want to follow up on Mr. Paul's comment. Once the final budget is in, all the budgets, and we start taking final votes, then the topics become a little bit more interesting, shall we say. Right now, it's all somewhat abstract, but once we really start saying yes or no, then it becomes a little more focused, I guess I'd put it. So and in years past, there's been years when nobody showed up. So I can't predict the future, who knows?
So I think, so as we stand in terms of the language that Justin has proposed, do we need to amend it to say after each agenda item to allow public comment? Or, I mean, one thing it could do is, just as a matter of practice, is just recognize people, that if someone comes up in the middle of a presentation to say, I'll recognize you after the chief or the superintendent has finished, as a matter of practice, as opposed to stop, I've got someone at the podium and interrupt it. So could you read again, so we're still in the discussion, we have a motion and a second.
Well, yeah, I would say that would be the limiting factor, is if somebody came up during a presentation, it would be at the discretion of the chairman to wave them away.
Right.
So that you wouldn't necessarily have that, whereas if the conversation were more freewheeling and it looked like somebody known to have relevant commentary and the department person didn't really care, then the chairman could say, go ahead. So as I had it, I think, members of the public can address the budget committee at any time during a budget committee meeting if recognized by the chair, pertinent to the fiscal 19 budget, subject to a 3-minute limit. Period. Requests for other matters to appear on the agenda may be made to the secretary.
How about the Nancy Mello?
Nancy,
And-
should that be made to you? The clerk?
I lost him after,
Well,
I can't hear very well.
You prepare the agendas, right?
I was just gonna say, she doesn't prepare our agenda, you guys do, or you do.
That last line about information that could be on the agenda, it also needs to be in relation to budget issues. That's what our committee is here for, is to review budget issues. So we need to, it needs, we're not,
Yeah, the language that we
Relative to
had.
the fiscal year 19 budget.
Well, that's to speak.
because it sounds like there's a qualification there that would allow people to come in and submit items on the agenda that could talk about anything. Am I misunderstanding?
Well, they can't submit an item for our agenda. They can
Is
ask,
that-
they can talk about it, and then that's up to us to decide, and then we have to put it on the next one. That's partly what Sally was saying, is that we
Okay.
couldn't then launch into a big discussion and do any kind of vote because it wasn't
Okay,
on the
thank you.
agenda.
Thank
But
you.
someone from the public could come and raise something and recognize it and say, okay, that's something that we as a committee decide can put on, if it's relevant, to put on the agenda.
I mean, I know personally from my feedback, I've done that before with school committee. I'll email like Mr. Eric and ask him, right? If I could put that, if he could put that onto the next agenda.
And then the chair, it's up to the chair.
And then it's up to the chair to put it on there.
And there's something on the website, to how to get on the agenda.
Yeah.
There's a form you fill out,
Okay.
submit to be placed on the agenda.
Yeah, but for our purposes, they would contact Mrs. Mello, who would send it to the chair
Okay.
for consideration.
Okay.
We don't never get emails to
Mhm.
the chair anyway. Yeah.
Or sent to the town clerk.
Okay. All right, so as it currently stands, members of the public may address the committee at any time during a meeting, if recognized by the chair, on matters pertinent to the fiscal 19 budget, subject to a 3-minute limit. Requests for other matters to appear on the agenda may be made to the secretary, care of the town clerk.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Are you going to add the statement about being able to submit written?
Well, that's what
That's-
you
That wasn't
submitted to the
there.
town clerk.
Okay,
Right.
not just request for agenda, but any comment can be submitted.
Yeah,
All
they
right.
could send her an email and say,
Yeah, but he said to be on the agenda, so I'm just saying any comment they have can be submitted.
Well, so this is where I'm hearing this a couple times, that the suggestion that people
No,
can talk
a
about.
budget fiscal 18-19 comment.
Okay, thank you.
That's what we had before.
Okay.
Well, I excluded that because
Written.
that would really be just a reminder that they could, because anybody could write to us about anything if they wanted to.
Well, we're just reminding them, that's what we had decided, but if you don't want to, we can vote on it, whatever, it's fine, that's fine.
well, if they don't do that, we'll certainly read about it this kind of times.
Could you read that one more time?
Okay. So it would be members of the public can address the budget committee at any time during a budget committee meeting, if recognized by the chair, on matters pertinent to the fiscal 19 budget, subject to a 3-minute limit. Requests for other matters to appear on the agenda may be made to the secretary, care of the town clerk.
Great.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? We have a vote. All in favor?
Great.
Unanimous. Great.
Bravo.
Thanks. I know this feels painful, is to some extent, but it's,
That's,
my opinion, it's how we can engage with the public. It was important. I think there were a lot of sentiments that people had, that I witnessed last year, that were really heartfelt, but they became personal in many instances. They were, could be off topic. So we don't want to stop input, but we really do need to have some ground rules. I have one last other item is, and this is partly due to my ignorance, is how has the Budget Committee in the past dealt with anticipating the costs related to contracts? So we have a couple of open ones, like obviously, so I don't know how that is dealt with. That we'll have a fire department where we won't know what those wages will be. So when we come with a budget, trying to anticipate what the upcoming fiscal year would be, we don't do. And my guess would be it would be quite unwise to put in a plug to say, well, let's just guess it's 2%, and then you're giving away the store, or it might be too low. So I throw that out as a question.
The problem is, it comes in, all that comes in after the FTR.
Right. So I'm asking, how is it dealt with in the past? This happens for whatever a contract comes up for renewal and it's not complete.
You want me to say my name?
Yes, and the
Nancy
chair, the
Mello.
new chair recognizes you.
Okay. Coral Lane. In the past, we have put, the council has estimated what it anticipates it's going to be able to do with raises and put it in one account. And then as the contracts were settled, the amount for each contract came out of that one bulk amount. They would put it in on, it wasn't unfunded, it was future needs, yes, Sally's right. It was put in future needs. So like right now, we have the fire department, it's in arbitration. I mean, we don't know what will happen there, but we have the fire department. We're working on the police department that's really kind of going, we hope, well. And, but it won't be settled by the time this committee completes its work and by the time the council has to send its final budget. So perhaps when we meet on Saturday, I'll try to address that with them as to what we anticipate the cost of. We know there might be some increase, in arbitration, there's going to be an increase in salaries. And then the police department, I assume we're in negotiations, may very well be something there. Or maybe it'll be zero the first year, I don't know. But we could look at it that way. We've done that in the past couple of years, I think we did that. And other years, the reason they hate to just estimate, I mean, like, for them to come up with a decision like, well, okay, maybe the fire department's in arbitration and the arbitrator, whatever they say we're going to have to do, is going to give them 2%, and I'm just guessing any of this stuff, they would put it into the account, but if it didn't, into each account that it would affect, but if it didn't actually get that, sometimes you're over budgeted or you're under budgeted. So I think the future needs was a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Sally Black, and I was just going to say what Nancy said. If you do put a number in, then you're held to that number.
Right.
They'll go, that's in there. But when they did the future needs, it was for everybody, so no one knew what anybody was getting. I think it worked out much better, because when you're the school department, put a number in, and then when you go to we don't have binding arbitration, we have mediation and arbitration, but they still targeted that number, like you said, whatever, 2 or 2.5%. And you never know what's going to happen during the process. So the future needs, I thought, really was a good idea that they did on their side. Thank you.
I think they said that fire department's not coming up to September.
Mhm.
And then it's retro, right?
It'll probably take a month and a half to go through arbitration.
But, and then it's
You
retro
have no
back,
idea.
right?
It all depends who the neutral arbitrator is. When I was working, we got 6.5% one year.
Mhm.
And plus, we got a profit sharing program too.
Mr. Chair, so can you summarize what this future needs count
So
is?
what I'm concerned is we will be presented with budgets, and if a labor contract isn't settled, they're putting no increases in.
No, so what is the future needs that could be, I don't understand where it is, and is it happening now that we're using this, but this,
Yeah, there were no contracts settled for this year, so we didn't
Didn't-
need to.
okay.
It was just a mechanism to have money in the.
Okay, will
in the
be,
budget
okay.
Without
Okay.
having it allocated anything.
Does that
I'd like to
answer-
stress,
These
though,
things
that
are gonna be settled in this
the-
budget cycle.
We have authority to put the budget, the official budget of the town together. We are not limited by anything. I mean, technically, we could vote not to put money to pay a contract. We could do that. I mean, it would be silly, but we could, technically. So the question of how the budget committee traditionally handles that, I mean, you take what they give you under advisement, is my suggestion, and then we discuss it and handle it accordingly.
Does that answer your question?
Somewhat, yes.
Because if you were to put, say, the AFSCME contract and say, okay, we think they're gonna get a 2% raise, and we put it into that budget, then the people are gonna vote whatever budget goes forward. And then it would look like, well, the people already voted, we're gonna get 2%, as opposed to keeping it in future needs and being able to negotiate. Maybe they'll negotiate 1%, 0%, or as Alex said, 6%.
Yeah, we got 6% one year in profit sharing.
But what year was that?
John, Larry Russo was head of the council. What year was that?
19 what?
What year was that?
So, but
I don't know.
the council does have authority also to take out a general fund balance down to the 3% limit, and even then, they could devote and call a contractual issue an emergency and take more, so.
We don't take from a general fund to pay contracts. We don't take from general fund. You can only spend the money you are appropriated.
Well, far better to
I don't
have
know when we've ever gone to the
Special-
general.
a column of
future
Not
needs.
below the
needs
3%, but.
and not
they
use
spent
it,
down the
and then
general
have
fund.
nothing and go to the voters and say, guess what?
Can I make a comment, Mr. Chairman, on that? Just a general comment on contracts and budget setting. This is just, you have to remember that the townspeople, again, I had said this last year, there's only so much money, okay? There's only so much of a pot of money in the town. So when you start giving contracts, you have to remember it's going to take away from this other concern, this other need in some department where it might be really needed, like the planning department, et cetera. So it should be really careful when you start making these negotiations that you don't negotiate them beyond the capacity of people to pay. That's all I wanted to
We
say.
don't negotiate
Correct.
contracts.
That's
No.
outside our purview.
I'm saying when they do it, it's going to affect other things. So I'm just saying, when that's done, not when we do it, but when it is done, it has to be.
You're gonna find out the arbitration, I've been involved in it. The arbitrator spends a lot of
All right.
time looking at all the assets of the town, driving around the town, looking at the property and everything else. And most of the time, they come out with a fairly decent decision.
We'll see.
But they'll also consider the ability of taxpayers to pay, and if taxpayers are repeatedly not funding things.
Yeah, but they've been telling you that they
The
can't.
arbitrator will say, well, I don't know, that this is gonna cause trouble with your town if the people aren't gonna approve of it next year. So that will-
Right.
All right. Well, anyway, so pardon my ignorance, but I see that's a train coming down the tracks with some bright lights that, as a committee, that we have to anticipate is that the town council is going to likely have a future needs amount that could take care of a couple of contracts, but if we have to think about whether we're putting money in there or not. So, to be determined as we move forward. Any other?
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
You may. All right. Any opposed? All right, thank you.